Chapter 1690. Qin Wendian stared at the air as he coldly spoke, "Which bastard dares to speak in front of me?" The aura in the air was violent to the extreme. No demons replied. Numerous demonic beasts descended from the sky, each of them belonging to a different faction. These demonic races all exuded a stifling pressure. Naturally, there were also demonic beasts that were pleasing to the eye. For example, the nine-tailed fox race. Their bodies were clad in white and were incomparably beautiful. This was especially so for the fox goddess. Her aura was so dazzling that no demons could compare to her. Foarok race, sun gold demon race. Seems like you guys didn't take my words back then to heart. Qin Wendian coldly spoke. Even now, little rascal still hasn't appeared. The greater demons of the Foarok race and sun gold demon race walked out. Terrifying auras bore down from the sky, enveloping the entire Evergreen Kingdom palace. The majestic royal palace at this moment seemed extremely tiny and inconsequential. In the face of so many experts from the immortal realms, it was as though it could be destroyed at any moment. Release the king of my race. A peak-stage demon emperor from the Foarok race coldly spoke. His wings blotted out the sun, resembling the clouds in the sky. His eyes shone with golden flames, terrifying to the extreme. Qin Wendian's eyes were cold as he spoke. "Since this is the case, make your move then." "Yes, Palace Lord." As the sound of Qin Wendian's voice faded, a group of immortal emperors in the royal palace flickered and appeared before the two demonic beasts with weak auras. Their divine weapons glowed with resplendent light as they directly attacked the two demonic kings, plucking their feathers, pulling out their tendons, breaking their wings. In an instant, the two supreme greater demons screamed in agony. Even though they were heavily injured, they couldn't endure such a hellish torture. In the air, the demonic beasts from the Foarok race and sun gold demon race roared in rage as they swooped down, wanting to launch an attack. However, at this moment, within the Evergreen Kingdom, an army of immortal emperors soared up into the air, exuding a fearsome aura, causing the experts from the two supreme demon races to halt their movements. They circled in the air while howling in rage. "What are you waiting for?" The experts from the two races stared at the experts from the other demonic races. However, other than some demonic races that had enmity with Qin Wendian, many other demonic races decided to watch from the sidelines and didn't have any intentions to act. There was also intense competition between the demonic races. The Foarok race and the sun gold demon race were both peak-level demonic races. They were usually incomparably arrogant and tyrannical. It would naturally be good if they could weaken their strength. In addition, now that so many experts from the immortal realms were gathered here, it wasn't only the demons here. If they rushed out to fight against Qin Wendian, wouldn't that be giving those characters from the immortal realms, Wuxiu, an advantage? These greater demons who had cultivated to the peak of their cultivation wouldn't easily start a fight. The two demon kings of the Foarok race and sun gold demon race were actually skinned alive by Qin Wendian right in front of the experts of the immortal realms. Such a scene was simply too horrifying. Countless gazes turned to that white-robed figure. How domineering was his return today? Most probably, he even dared to cause the sun and moon to change. He was the Lord of the Heavens. Screams of misery rang out. The two demon kings were brutally killed. This caused all the experts who came here to feel an indescribable sense of trepidation in their hearts. Today, they definitely couldn't act rashly. The power structure of the immortal realms was about to change. Most probably, rivers of blood would flow in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. Start a fire. The two demon kings would surely be extremely nourishing. Qin Wendian spoke. Experts proficient in fire started to roast the meat. The flames were extremely terrifying. These were the flames of peak-stage immortal emperors. It wasn't a problem for them to roast two peak-stage greater demons. Upon seeing this scene, the Foarok race and sun gold demon race almost went berserk, disregarding everything and rushing down to fight. However, they were stopped by the two supreme greater demons. These two supreme greater demons were the new demon kings. They knew that they had to remain calm at this moment. Most probably, many people were waiting for them to probe the strength of Qin Wentian and the Evergreen Kingdom. If they fought now, they would only be cannon fodder. Qin Wentian killed his way into their nest alone. From this, one could very well imagine how terrifying his strength was. Roar! An expert from the White Tiger people roared as his eyes spewed fire. Back then in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, many of the greater demons of the White Tiger people also encountered such a situation. They were all roasted on the fire before being eaten by Qin Wentian and the Namhuang clan. Such humiliation, they would never forget it. Right now, Qin Wentian was roasting the demon kings of the Fo'arok race and Sun Gold demon race. The fragrance of meat permeated the air, refreshing the hearts of everyone. It was simply too wondrous. Qin Wentian gave the order to start eating. The immortal emperors naturally wouldn't be polite. These were peak stage greater demons, the demon kings of the two races. Their meat was countless times more valuable compared to miraculous pills and medicines. How could they be polite? At this moment, another group of figures descended. This group of people was extremely terrifying. There was an army of immortal emperors with shocking strength. The people standing at the front were all peak-stage immortal emperors and exuded a fearsome might. Qin Wentian glanced over there. After that, his gaze landed on one of them. It was none other than the Emperor of Qinbian. This group of experts was none other than the immortal Qinbian Gate. The Emperor of Qinbian naturally also saw Qin Wentian. He sighed in his heart. He didn't expect that Qin Wentian actually didn't die. He had watched Qin Wentian grow up, but now, Qin Wentian seemed to be walking on the opposite side of the immortal Qinbian Gate. This was something he didn't want to see. However, what could he do? Wentian. The Emperor of Qinbian called out. Emperor Lord, who is the one in charge of the immortal Qinbian Gate now? Qin Wentian asked. The Emperor of Qinbian felt bitterness in his heart. He glanced at the people before him and Qin Wentian instantly understood. Although the Emperor of Qinbian was still in the immortal Qinbian Gate, the current immortal Qinbian Gate was no longer the immortal Qinbian Gate of the past. It was completely controlled by the Heavenly Talisman Realm. Qin Wentian, why are you not returning to your sect yet? A person at the front of the immortal Qinbian Gate spoke. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He naturally understood what the other party meant. Over 100 years ago, Qin Wentian has already died once. Everything in the past has long been severed. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. The things the Heavenly Talisman Realm did made him choose to sever all ties with them. However, he also didn't wish to form a grudge with them. After all, he was once a disciple of the Heavenly Talisman Realm and had received much help from them. Unless there was no other choice, he didn't want to start a war with them. Ridiculous. How can the sect be a place you can enter and leave whenever you want? Don't forget the rules of the sect. The other party coldly laughed. Bring the traitors here. As the sound of his voice faded, someone took out a treasure. It was actually a spatial-type treasure that transformed into a prison. Terrifying chains could be seen within, locking 3 silhouettes within. Upon seeing the 3 silhouettes, Qin Wentian's countenance instantly turned incredibly unsightly to behold. A terrifying coldness radiated from him, gradually transforming into killing intent. Senior brother. A voice called out. Qin Wentian stared at the person who spoke. His long hair was in a mess, his robes were tattered and there were traces of blood on him. It was almost impossible to recognize that this person was none other than the young genius Jun Mengchen. The Monarch Descent Immortal Emperor. Someone exclaimed in shock. The Monarch Descent Immortal Emperor betrayed the immortal Qinbian Gate and was actually captured. This immortal Qinbian Gate was simply too terrifying. Mengchen. Qin Wentian turned his gaze over. He stepped out as his killing intent soared up into the sky. Over there, not only was Jun Mengchen there, he was acquainted with the other 2 as well. One of them was the white-robed immortal king Bai Wuya who once accepted him into the sect. Right now, he was in a sorry state. As for the last person, Qin Wentian had met him before. That old man with an extraordinary demeanor was none other than the senior brother who accepted Jun Mengchen. Wentian, don't act recklessly. When Qin Wentian stepped out, he heard Bai Wuya's voice transmission. Only to see Bai Wuya inclined his head, his eyes were no longer as radiant as before. He transmitted his voice back, an immortal emperor character from the heavenly talisman realm descended here. It is precisely because of this that Jun Mengchen was captured. Qin Wentian's steps faltered, the coldness radiating from him didn't vanish at all. In fact, it was even colder than before. As expected, the heavenly talisman realm from the upper world interfered in the matters of the lower world. This was also within his expectations. The great changes in the immortal realms, they initially wanted to make use of the heavenly talisman realm from the lower world to unify Azure Mystic. However, the heavenly talisman realm clearly didn't expect that the seal on Azure Mystic would slacken, affecting their plans. But since they had been preparing for so many years, they naturally wouldn't give up on the idea of unifying Azure Mystic. Mengchen, senior brother Bai, I've caused you two to suffer. Qin Wentian felt some guilt in his heart. Jun Mengchen betrayed the heavenly talisman realm because of him. Most probably, Bai Wuya also fell to such a state because of him. If not, even if Bai Wuya was unhappy with the actions of the heavenly talisman realm, he would have chosen to keep a low profile and wouldn't have ended up as a prisoner. In the camp of the immortal Qianbian Gate, there were some people who had interacted with Qin Wentian before. Back then, they had participated in the battle between the immortal Qianbian Gate and the Dongshengshan Gate. An example was Tuoba Saint Sky. When they saw the current situation, they could only sigh in their hearts. However, they had no other choice. They could only follow the orders of their sect and unify the world. Senior brother. Jun Mengchen clenched his fists tightly as his eyes turned bloodshot. His senior brother Qin actually didn't die. He should be happy, but today, his senior brother was most probably going to face another calamity. He also knew that a character above the immortal emperor realm had appeared in the heavenly talisman realm. After that, the immortal Qianbian Gate instantly became even more domineering, capturing him. After that, they also captured his senior brother, Bai Wuya. In the past, he was only placed under house arrest, but now, he was directly imprisoned. Among the many disciples, there was also an old friend of Qin Wentian, Zi Qingxian. Her beautiful eyes flashed with sadness as she clenched her fists tightly. Back then, she fought side by side with Qin Wentian and Jun Mengchen, and the three of them had an extremely good relationship. But today, Jun Mengchen became a prisoner and the sect also wanted to deal with Qin Wentian. She was powerless to change everything. Don't worry, everything will be fine. Qin Wentian smiled at Jun Mengchen. After that, his eyes turned cold as he stared at the experts of the immortal Qianbian Gate. Qin Wentian, if you are willing to kneel down and apologize and choose to submit to our sect, swearing that you will never betray us again, our sect can forgive all your mistakes. That expert from the heavenly talisman realm stared at Qin Wentian as he spoke. However, Qin Wentian merely laughed coldly as he stared at him. His gaze was like he was looking at a dead man. He returned to the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom, no longer glancing at Jun Mengchen and the others. His eyes swept over to the experts of the immortal realms as he spoke. Is everyone here? Chapter 1691. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, the immortal emperors behind him all had solemn expressions on their faces. The experts of the immortal realms were all gathered in the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. When has there ever been such a grand occasion in the immortal realms? At the very least, the people who came here today have never seen it before. Countless gazes and immortal senses were gathered here. What qualifications does Qin Wentian have to contend against the entire immortal realms? Qin Wentian, you didn't die in the battle back then. But today, I will definitely destroy your soul. A cold voice rang out. The tone of the Sanluo immortal emperor was extremely cold, his killing intent surging. Qin Wentian didn't even glance at him. He calmly spoke, the Azure Mystic immortal realms are undergoing a huge change. Right now, there are many experts from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms coming to Azure Mystic. I'm sure there are people from Azure Mystic among all of you. Today, I've gathered everyone here because my purpose is to elect a new ruler of the immortal realms. Since ancient times, there were ancient emperors who wanted to unify the immortal realms. Today, the time is ripe. Qin Wentian's voice rumbled out in all directions, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. Today, would the glory of the ancient emperor era return to the immortal realms? Ha ha ha, Qin Wentian, you actually want to unify the immortal realms? Just based on the strength of you and these people behind you? Pei Qing laughed uproariously. He stared at Qin Wentian with coldness in his eyes. He felt some jealousy towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian was just a junior back then, but now, Qin Wentian had already surpassed him, standing above him. Your words are exactly what I wanted. As expected of a disciple of my sect. Azure Mystic does indeed need to be unified. In the direction of the immortal Qianbian Gate, several people in the lead coldly spoke. Clearly, they also wanted to use this opportunity to unify the immortal realms and become the new ruler of Azure Mystic. I agree. Azure Mystic is too chaotic, it's about time for it to be unified. At this moment, a calm voice rang out from the true dragon of the Sanluo Immortal Empire, agreeing with Qin Wentian's words. Clearly, he had the same ambition. We'll talk about the unification of Qing Xian later. Let's kill Qin Wentian first, then we'll discuss this matter. Someone coldly spoke. This person was none other than the sect leader of the Sacred Sun sect. He anxiously wanted Qin Wentian's life. This young man mustn't be left alive, he had to kill him. If not, their Sacred Sun sect would be in danger. The Ying clan and the 9 emperors' immortal state were a good example. Kill Qin Wentian first. The experts from the White Tiger people also spoke. They all wanted Qin Wentian to die. As for the unification of Azure Mystic, they could already sense the abnormality of the current immortal realms. Most probably, there would be characters above the immortal emperor realm appearing, and there would definitely be more than one of them. If there were truly supreme characters descending to Azure Mystic, wanting to unify the immortal realms, they wouldn't stubbornly resist. Anyone who stood in their way would die. But it couldn't be, because if Qin Wentian became king, all his enemies would die. Since this is the case, it's indeed time to settle the debts of the past. Qin Wentian spoke. He turned his gaze to the experts in the air as he coldly spoke. Back then, the Sanluo Immortal Empire, Sacred Sun Sect, Fo'Arok race, Heavenhold race, Void Beast race, and the White Tiger people also participated in the siege against the Evergreen Kingdom. Today, I'm going to settle the score with them. The other powers have nothing to do with me. Naturally, if there's anyone who wants to interfere and become my enemy, I'm more than happy to oblige. Qin Wentian, your actions are unbridled and have already violated the taboos of the demon race. All the demons of the desolate mountains will kill you. The new leader of the Fo'Arok race coldly spoke. You gathered the people of the immortal realms and formed an alliance with many powers. There's the Evergreen Kingdom, Namhuang clan, GD, Emperor Yu, and many of your subordinates. Right now, you want to eliminate a group of enemies first before dealing with the others in the immortal realms? Pei Qing coldly laughed. Right now, Qin Wentian's forces were already extremely terrifying. He mustn't allow them to be defeated one by one. Pei Qing, I haven't mentioned you yet. Are you in such a hurry to die? Qin Wentian stared at Pei Qing. With a single glance, Pei Qing only felt as though he had fallen into a true illusionary space. There was no one in the surroundings, only he stood there alone as Qin Wentian's silhouette appeared before him. Illusion domain, you dare to act against me? Pei Qing's expression changed as he called out, wanting to beg for help. Right now, he truly didn't have any confidence in front of Qin Wentian. Back then in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, weren't you very arrogant in front of me? Since you want to die so badly today, I'll grant you your wish. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. At this moment, Pei Qing only felt his entire body turning cold. His aura erupted forth, but a formless pressure bore down on him. A terrifying palm imprint directly descended from the sky, he had no way to block it at all. Impudent. Pei Qing's master stepped out, exuding a terrifying aura. The experts from the Chaotic Sky sect all radiated coldness as they spoke. Qin Wentian, don't be impudent. Qin Wentian, my Chaotic Sky sect is now one of the strongest powers in the immortal realms. I truly want to see how strong your alliance is. Do you really want to stand against so many peak powers in the immortal realms? Pei Qing coldly stared at Qin Wentian as he spoke. Chaotic Sky Sect. A look of disdain appeared on Qin Wentian's face. If you want to take revenge for you, feel free to do so. As the sound of his voice faded, his palm trembled. Pei Qing only felt a sense of suffocation, his entire body was about to be crushed. He screamed in agony as he roared, "You dare!" Boom! With a thunderous boom, Qin Wentian's body directly disintegrated, turning into dust that dissipated into the air. The experts from the Chaotic Sky sect all stared at Qin Wentian. Pei Qing's master's eyes flashed with an intense killing intent. Naturally, there was also trepidation in his eyes. How powerful was Pei Qing now? Yet in front of Qin Wentian, he couldn't even withstand a single strike and was directly killed by Qin Wentian. When they thought of Qin Wentian's illustrious battle achievements in the immortal realms, they all felt a chill in their hearts. They didn't dare to act recklessly. Since all of you want to die so badly, I'll grant you your wish. Qin Wentian spoke. Destroy the Sacred Sun sect first. Yes, Palace Lord. A group of experts soared into the air. An army of immortal emperors, how terrifying was that? The people from the Sacred Sun sect roared in rage, why are you guys not acting yet? Earlier, the major powers named by Qin Wentian, the White Tiger people, Thoarok race, Heavenhold race, Void Beast race all unleashed their auras. Even the Sun Gold Demon race was prepared to act. He stared at the greater demons and spoke, Qin Wentian's humiliation of my tribe's king is a lesson to be learned from. Don't you all want to kill him? Many demons fell silent. Qin Wentian was too domineering. Although they couldn't bear to see how Qin Wentian humiliated the king of the Thoarok race and Sun Gold Demon race, they still had trepidation in their hearts. If Qin Wentian was weak, they wouldn't hesitate to kill him. But since Qin Wentian was strong, they had no choice but to be cautious. In the direction of the Sacred Sun sect, the experts from the Sacred Sun sect all radiated terrifying sunfire with the sect leader at the center. It was like they were in a formation as a terrifying sun manifested, shooting out beams of sunlight that shot towards the immortal emperors below. Each beam of sunlight contained immense power. There was a crown on the head of the Sacred Sun sect leader, this was a supremely powerful emperor-ranked weapon. The sun was formed precisely from the crown. However, Qin Wentian's subordinates were all monarch-level governors. How could they not have emperor-ranked weapons in their hands? Resplendent light flashed as a terrifying coldness corroded the sunlight. A fog appeared in the air as a group of immortal emperors killed their way towards the Sacred Sun sect. At the same time, there were also experts from the Thoarok race, Sun Gold Demon race, Void Beast race and the White Tiger people. The battle instantly erupted, causing the sky to change color as the tremors shook unceasingly. The other major powers all watched from the sidelines, not interfering in this battle. Only now did countless people realize that the situation today wouldn't repeat itself. Qin Wentian gathered all the peak powers of the immortal realms, but these peak powers wouldn't really join forces to kill Qin Wentian. Because, things were no longer the same as before. The encirclement back then was because the various peak powers had the absolute advantage. But today, the Ying clan, the 9 emperors' immortal state, Old Devil Duo Tian and the others have already been annihilated. Who would dare to interfere now? Could it be because Qin Wentian had the strength to threaten the entire Azure Mystic Immortal Realms? Didn't the Immortal Qianbian Gate have the strength to do so? Even if they could kill Qin Wentian, wouldn't they be helping the Immortal Qianbian Gate instead? Right now, many people were waiting. They knew that the true battle has yet to begin and most probably, only a minority of people would be able to participate in it. Qin Wendian didn't participate in the battle. The Immortal Emperor army of the Lifire Palace, the Namhuang clan, the Evergreen Kingdom, GD, Emperor Yu, and the Immortal Emperors of the Battle Saint tribe were all extremely powerful. They were more than enough to deal with several peak powers at the same time. His gaze landed on the dragon carriage of the Sanluo Immortal Empire. With a swishing sound, the dragon carriage was torn apart as an incomparably tyrannical figure appeared. His eyes opened as a resplendent light shot out, radiating a boundless might that enveloped this entire space. The sky changed color as a hellish dimension appeared in the air. The terrifying might radiating from it caused even immortal emperors to tremble. Countless people turned their gazes in the direction of the Sanluo Immortal Empire, staring at the expert who appeared as waves of shock rose in their hearts. Although they had already guessed it, when they truly saw such a character appearing, they still felt their hearts trembling. At this moment, many experts from the Sanluo Immortal Empire knelt on one knee, incomparably respectful. Even immortal emperors were kneeling in submission. This scene was simply too shocking. The Sanluo Immortal Emperor stared at Qin Wendian as he coldly spoke, "Envoys from the upper world of my Sanluo Immortal Palace have arrived. You actually dare to dream of destroying my Sanluo Immortal Empire? I've said it before, today shall be the day of your death." Envoys from the upper world. Everyone sighed. Things were really like what Qin Wendian said. Now that there was an envoys from the upper world descending from the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, this person should have already surpassed the Immortal Emperor realm. Qin Wendian, what a pity. Would he still not be able to escape death today? I've given you a chance to submit to me. Since you want to die, this seat shall grant you your wish. That Empyrean from the Sanluo Immortal Empire spoke. The light from hell bore down on Qin Wendian, like the might of the apocalypse. Countless gazes turned to Qin Wendian as their expressions all changed. This was especially so for Qin Wendian's friends and family. Their countenances turned even paler. That supreme character still wouldn't be able to escape death today. Chongqing the Great, GD and the others all stared over nervously, terror could be seen in their eyes. This scene was too terrifying. The light from the true apocalypse of hell descended upon Qin Wendian, wanting to engulf him. Chapter 1692. At the Ancient Emperor Realm. The hearts of countless people trembled as they stared at the apocalyptic scene of destruction. The emperors from the Foarok race, Sun Gold Demon race and Sacred Sun sect all had malevolent smiles on their faces. So what if Qin Wendian has returned? In the end, he would still die. After his death, everyone in the Evergreen Kingdom would definitely regret living in this world. Many experts from the Sanluo Immortal Empire knelt on the ground, their eyes filled with reverence. As expected of an envoy from the upper world. How could Qin Wendian survive? At this moment, the gazes of countless people were all focused on the location where Qin Wendian was at. They only saw that Qin Wendian's body suddenly glowed with an incomparably resplendent light. He was like a divinity, and when that hell descended, the light pierced into it, devouring the energy of the hell bit by bit, causing it to dissipate unceasingly. The light grew stronger and stronger, so blinding that people couldn't open their eyes. They didn't dare to look directly at it. Countless people stretched out their hands to cover their eyes. Between heaven and earth, the power of the great light seemed to illuminate the world. Finally, that hell disappeared, dissipating under the light, turning into dust. Qin Wendian still stood there. He was clad in white, exuding magnificence through the generations. His black hair fluttered in the wind, but from the start until now, he didn't move at all. At this moment, the faces of many turned ashen. They finally realized something. The void was silent. In this vast and boundless space, countless powerful beings seemed to have come to a realization at this moment. This was an extremely shocking truth. The Qin Wendian who returned this time wasn't at the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. His cultivation base was above the Immortal Emperor realm. What did it mean to be above the Immortal Emperor realm? The Ancient Emperor realm. He wasn't someone from the upper world. He was an ancient emperor that appeared in Azure Mystic. From a junior, he surpassed countless heaven-chosen and experts of the older generations, stepping into that unknown realm and returning. As to why many people didn't dare to think in this direction, it was because the time was too short. It hasn't even been 200 years since the time Qin Wendian was killed. 200 years, who would dare to believe that someone above the immortal emperor realm? It was like a dream, completely unreal. But the truth was right before their eyes. The ancient emperor of the azure mystic immortal realms was born, Qin Wendian. The evergreen immortal emperor, matriarch Ji, and the others all laughed, the tension in their hearts dissipated. There was only shock in their hearts. So this was the case. Qin Wendian was much stronger than what they had imagined, he had walked even further than they had imagined. The eyes of the experts from the heavenly talisman realm narrowed as they stared at Qin Wendian. They didn't expect that Qin Wendian had actually stepped into that realm. He had truly concealed himself well. Jun Mengchen, Bai Wuya, and the others' gloomy eyes lit up. To Jun Mengchen, his senior brother, who had created miracles, had returned. He himself was a legend. To Bai Wuya, he was very proud of Qin Wendian. This was a talent he discovered, and right now, Qin Wendian was already incomparably dazzling, walking at the forefront of his generation. The Thousand Transformations Emperor Lord also sighed with emotions in his heart. What did it mean to be peerless? Qin Wendian was able to vividly explain the meaning of this word. He suppressed an entire era, no one could be mentioned in the same breath as him. The expression of that envoy from the Sanluo Immortal Empire froze. He stared at Qin Wendian and spoke, "No wonder you dare to be so impudent. So it turns out that you have also stepped into the Empyrean realm. The matters of Azure Mystic will naturally be resolved by my Azure Mystic. I don't care who you are, if you scram now, I can let bygones be bygones. You can do whatever you want to do, but don't interfere in the matters of my Azure Mystic Immortal Realms." Qin Wendian stared at the envoy as he spoke tyrannically. Ha ha ha. That envoy laughed uproariously. What arrogant words. Could it be that you want to represent Azure Mystic? Now that the ban has been relaxed, countless experts will enter Azure Mystic. Do you want to represent the entire Azure Mystic? In addition, I heard that you died once over 100 years ago. Seems like you had some good fortune and profited from a disaster, achieving your current accomplishments. But most probably, it hasn't been too long since you stepped into this realm. As for me, I've already stepped into the Empyrean realm a few thousand years ago. You want me to scram? Are you even qualified to do so? That envoy laughed maniacally. Purgatory once again appeared in the sky. Upon hearing his words, the eyes of many flashed. The words of this envoy were logical. After all, he was someone from the upper world and was definitely an extremely powerful character. No matter how fast Qin Wendian's cultivation speed was, he shouldn't have stepped into the Empyrean realm for too long. How could Qin Wendian fight against him? Right now, the situation was still very uncertain. Using time to judge strength before me? How ridiculous. I'll only ask you one last time. Are you going to scram or not? Just when everyone was guessing the difference in strength between the two of them, Qin Wendian spoke again. How tyrannical was this? However, no one could refute him. Indeed, in front of Qin Wendian, who would use time to compare strength? How many years has he cultivated for? How many years has it been since he was at the Immortal King realm? What a madman, not knowing the immensity of the heavens and earth. The eyes of the envoy flashed with rage. He stared at Qin Wendian and in an instant, purgatory manifested around Qin Wendian, enveloping him within. Boundless lava and fire appeared, gushing towards Qin Wendian. For Empyreans, their law intents were like heavenly might, able to form laws with a single thought. How powerful were they? In the air, boundless energy from purgatory bore down, wanting to bury Qin Wendian within. However, a terrifying spatial energy manifested around Qin Wendian. Spatial blades slashed out, directly cleaving apart the void. Qin Wendian stepped out, directly exiting the purgatory, exuding an incomparable carefreeness. I don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth? Qin Wendian laughed in disdain. Boundless spatial light appeared in the sky, lacerating the void and instantly enveloping the envoy from the Sunluo Immortal Empire. Slash! With an intention of his will, Qin Wendian's spatial energy transformed into terrifying spatial blades that slashed towards the envoy. The expression of the envoy froze. A fearsome layer of stone armor appeared around him, impenetrable. Thunderous rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly, the stone armor turned crimson red. Ear-piercing sounds rang out unceasingly as the stone armor crumbled apart unceasingly. He stretched out both his hands and in an instant, the laws of heaven and earth went berserk. Numerous blazing diamond-like stones appeared, floating in the air, resembling a myriad of floating islands. Kill! With a clench of his hand, the floating islands shot towards Qin Wendian like shooting stars, wanting to bury Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian's body transformed into a beam of light as he vanished. With a thunderous boom, the blazing stones collided with each other. Qin Wendian's silhouette vanished completely, directly appearing before the envoy from the Sunluo Immortal Empire. Resplendent beams of light and sharp swords shot out, resembling a torrential river that flowed unceasingly. The emperors from the Sunluo Immortal Empire all retreated madly. The space where the two of them fought transformed into a vacuum zone, nobody dared to get close. The demonic dragons pulling the carriage were directly torn apart by the shockwaves, transforming into a rain of blood. Courting death. The envoy from the Sunluo Immortal Empire roared, the surrounding space trembled violently as though it was about to shatter. His fist shone with an incomparably terrifying light as rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly. When he saw Qin Wendian appearing, he directly punched out. A terrifying innate technique erupted forth, creating a blood-colored space akin to hell. Boundless meteors shot out, penetrating through everything. At such a close distance, there was basically no way for Qin Wendian to dodge. The innate techniques of Empyreans were infused with the power of their law wills. How terrifying would that be? Naturally, Qin Wendian didn't even think of dodging. An ancient Buddha law body appeared around Qin Wendian as countless arms manifested. Punching out with a radiant divine fist, the entire space was covered in light. Everywhere he passed by, everything was reduced to ashes. The expression of the envoy from the Sunluo Immortal Empire drastically changed. How could this young man have comprehended multiple source origins? Not only that, he even had a supreme innate technique. Qin Wendian roared, unleashing his full strength as he frenziedly attacked. Rocks and stones shot through the air, but the countless arms seemed to be able to bury the heavens and earth, sealing this space. After that, they grabbed towards his body. The Buddhist arms were like vines, wrapping around his body, forcibly capturing him and binding him in the air. Qin Wendian walked over step by step, radiating resplendent Buddhic light, incomparably holy. You only have this little bit of strength and you want me to kneel and submit? Qin Wendian stared at the envoy from the Sunluo Immortal Empire. That envoy's expression changed as he spoke, I'm someone from the supreme ancient immortal realms. I won't interfere in this matter anymore. Release me. The people from the Sunluo Immortal Empire were all dumbfounded. After that, their earlier fervor transformed into deep fear. Even the Sunluo Immortal Emperor started to panic. The envoy they worshipped like a god was actually defeated. What did this mean? This meant that their Sunluo Immortal Empire would soon be annihilated. I told you to scram, but you mocked me for not knowing the immensity of the heavens and earth. What about now? Qin Wendian stared at the envoy from the Sunluo Immortal Empire. Beams of light and sharp swords shot out frenziedly. That envoy screamed in misery as his body was destroyed bit by bit. Under the shocked gazes of everyone, his body finally dissipated, turning into dust. Silence filled the air, the hearts of countless people pounded. An ancient emperor-level character just died. They only felt their minds turning numb. After Qin Wendian returned, did the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms become so crazy? That was an ancient emperor that only appeared once every countless years in the Immortal Realms. Yet, he was killed just like that, in the hands of a supreme genius like Qin Wentian. How terrifying was Qin Wentian? No one dared to believe that Qin Wentian was still an immortal king 100 years ago. This was simply unimaginable. Was Qin Wentian strong? Of course he was. His astral souls made it so that he would have an absolute advantage when fighting against opponents at the same cultivation level. Although the time he spent at the Empyrean realm was short, he had comprehended the source origins of all his law attributes. Some people might not be able to do so even if they cultivated for thousands or tens of thousands of years. Back then, when he just broke through to the Empyrean realm, the Lifeire Empyrean could only fight against him with the help of the Lifeire Grand Formation. In fact, the Lifeire Empyrean didn't even have the advantage. The people from the Sunluo Immortal Empire, the Sacred Sun Sect, and many of their enemies from the demon race all felt fear in their hearts. Qin Wentian was so powerful. What would their fates be? Chongqing the Great, GD and the others all sighed in their hearts. How could they have imagined that Qin Wentian had already reached a level that they couldn't even look up to? From today onwards, who in the world wouldn't know of you? The Southern Phoenix matriarch Nanfeng Yaoyue stared at the white-robed figure as she sighed. Back then, Qin Wentian was merely an outstanding junior. How would she dare to imagine that Qin Wentian would have such accomplishments today? Chapter 1693. 200 years ago, the immortal realms experienced a transformation. The Tao elements appeared in the city of ancient emperors, and geniuses contended against each other. Why? In the history of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, there were many existences who managed to step into that realm. In the vast immortal realms, no one dared to disobey them. Although there were only a few records of them in the ancient records, no one dared to deny their unparalleled achievements. In the vast immortal realms, they reigned supreme. From this, one could very well imagine what sort of existences ancient emperors were. They were paragons of the immortal realms, able to become the rulers of the world. But today, an ancient emperor was killed by Qin Wentian in the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. How could Nanfeng Yaoyue not understand what this signified? From today onwards, Qin Wentian's name would truly circulate through the entire Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. There was no one in the world who didn't know of Qin Wentian. Many people in the Namhuang clan felt indescribably shocked. Namhuang Yunxi and Nanfeng Shunga suddenly felt that Qin Wentian was so close to them, yet so far away at the same time. If it wasn't for the fact that they were friends, they most probably wouldn't even have the qualifications to stand together with Qin Wentian. This was an existence that could kill ancient emperors. Even immortal emperors would have to kneel before them. In the vast crowd, Qin Wentian had many acquaintances. Li Yufeng, Nanfeng Nongyue, the Dark North Immortal Emperor and the others all felt shock in their hearts. Although Su Qingyao had only interacted with Qin Wentian in the city of ancient emperors, Qin Wentian had given her an extremely deep impression. After this battle, she would never be able to forget his magnificence throughout the generations. Chu Qingyi's eyes turned red, feeling incomparably complicated in her heart. Has he already reached this step? In that case, she could only give him her blessings. Her beautiful eyes flickered with tears. The man she secretly loved in her heart, his name would shake the entire world. Senior brother Qin. Jun Mengchen clenched his fists tightly. In the immortal Qianbian Gate, those who knew Qin Wentian all sighed in their hearts. Even an ancient emperor had died in his hands. Sunluo Emperor, is today the day of my death? Qin Wentian turned his gaze to the Sunluo Immortal Emperor. At this instant, the Sunluo Immortal Emperor's countenance turned ashen. The experts from the Sunluo Immortal Empire all had looks of terror on their faces. Even the envoy from the upper world had died in Qin Wentian's hands. How could they be a match for Qin Wentian? Given Qin Wentian's current cultivation base, it would only take a single thought for him to kill them. Qin Wentian, you killed someone from the upper world of my Sunluo Immortal Empire. In the future, you won't be able to escape death as well. The Sunluo Immortal Emperor had a malevolent expression on his face as he threatened. He knew that right now, he would die for sure. You won't be able to see it. Qin Wendian calmly spoke. I'm willing to lead the Sunluo Immortal Empire to submit to the Immortal Champion Gate. At this moment, the Sunluo Immortal Emperor had already secretly transmitted his voice to the experts of the Immortal Champion Gate. Right now, only this force could allow him to live. Naturally, on the surface, he still spoke. Qin Wendian, how did you do it exactly? How can you reach your current cultivation base in such a short period of time? Qin Wendian's eyes flashed. The Sunluo Immortal Emperor was actually concerned about this before his death. Upon seeing the flickering in his eyes, Qin Wendian seemed to have understood. A resplendent light cascaded down on the Sunluo Immortal Emperor. This was the power of light. Stay your hand. At this moment, the leader of the Immortal Champion Gate berated. Qin Wendian ignored him. When he heard that voice, he understood that the Sunluo Immortal Emperor had sought help from the Heavenly Talisman realm. The light flashed as the Sunluo Immortal Emperor screamed in agony. After that, he dissipated into nothingness. Not only for the Sunluo Immortal Emperor, the light radiating from Qin Wendian also enveloped all the experts of the Sunluo Immortal Empire. He spoke. Back then, the Sunluo Immortal Emperor led the Sunluo Immortal Empire to hunt me down. Today, I've returned. The Sunluo Immortal Empire shall be erased from the immortal realms. As the sound of his voice faded, the experts of the Sunluo Immortal Empire all screamed in agony as they died one after another, vanishing from the light. Although he has already reached another level, what he wanted was revenge. Who could say anything? Back then, the peak powers of the immortal realms joined forces to hunt him down. At that time, he, Qin Wendian, was only at the Immortal King realm. All the immortal emperors participated in the hunt, and now that he has returned, even if he killed all his enemies, no one could say that he didn't abide by the rules. This was what the many peak powers of the immortal realms did to him back then. Now, he wanted to get revenge. Another peak power of the immortal realms has been destroyed. Many people sighed with emotion. The Sunluo Immortal Empire was one of the 3 strongest immortal empires in the central regions. But now, 2 out of 3 were destroyed. The Sunluo Immortal Empire and the 9 Emperors' immortal state were both destroyed. From now on, their names were erased from the immortal realms. If it was in the past, the experts of the Shooting Sun Empire would surely be very happy. But now, the experts of the Shooting Sun Empire didn't feel as excited as they imagined. Because, they understood that even if the 9 Emperors' immortal state and the Sunluo Immortal Empire were destroyed, their Shooting Sun Empire wouldn't be able to accomplish much. Qin Wendian was still there, he could even kill ancient emperors. This was equivalent to crushing the hopes of all the peak powers. Even if they stepped into that legendary realm, it was useless. They wouldn't be able to defeat Qin Wendian. This immortal realms would only belong to Qin Wendian or those who could defeat Qin Wendian. The experts of the Shooting Sun Empire could only watch from the sidelines. There was a beautiful princess in the Shooting Sun Empire who was now an immortal emperor. She was transcendent. Back then when she was in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, she was teased by monk Bujie. When she was hunting Bujie, she met Qin Wendian and a story happened between them. Now that she saw Qin Wendian, she felt as though she was in a dream. Everything felt so surreal. The scenes in the Tiandao Sacred Academy flashed through her mind. At that time, who would have thought that the handsome young man in front of her would have such accomplishments today? The experts of the Immortal Champion Gate all had unsightly expressions on their faces. Qin Wendian clearly ignored them. Qin Wendian naturally had to ignore them. When they spoke, Qin Wendian already knew that the Sunluo Immortal Emperor had sought help from the Immortal Champion Gate. How could he not kill them? Those who participated in the encirclement of the Sunluo Immortal Emperor back then would all be annihilated. No one would be able to interfere. As expected of a disciple of your sect. Now that your wings have hardened and you have already stepped into the Empyrean realm, you no longer have your sect in your eyes. An expert from the Heavenly Talisman realm coldly spoke. Back then when I was still in my sect, where was the sect when I was surrounded by so many peak powers? Now, I have to rely on myself to take revenge. Could it be that you all still want to obstruct me? Qin Wentian mocked. The experts from the heavenly talisman realm coldly snorted. They had no way to refute Qin Wentian's words. There was truly no logic to it. Kill them all. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the battle in the air that had stopped. He coldly spoke. The Foarok race, Void Beast race, White Tiger people and the other greater demons all had looks of terror on their faces. They actually sped away, preparing to flee. When they saw that Qin Wentian has already stepped into the Empyrean realm, they knew that it was impossible for them to win against Qin Wentian. Now, they could only flee for their lives. Qin Wentian coldly laughed. Astral light enveloped him as an incomparably gigantic ancient tree appeared in the air. Countless vines shot out in all directions with lightning speed, causing rustling sounds to ring out unceasingly. The experts from the Heavenhold race were all bound by the ancient tree as they howled in rage. The greater demons from the Heavenhold race had boundless strength, but the vines grew larger and larger, locking onto them tightly. The experts from the Foarok race were incomparably tyrannical. The greater demons from the Sun Gold demon race blazed with sun fire, but the vines were indestructible. They grew thicker and thicker, binding the greater demons tightly. Flee. For immortal emperors, how would they have a chance to flee when facing an ancient emperor? The roars of rage shook the heavens and earth. The other greater demons stared in shock, none of them dared to interfere. Although they hated Qin Wentian's methods very much, who would dare to interfere when facing the rage of an ancient emperor? They couldn't help but to rejoice that they didn't participate in the war against the Evergreen Kingdom back then. If not, they wouldn't have been able to escape today. Yah! At this moment, a raging wind gusted by as a golden-colored greater demon flew over with a speed as fast as lightning. His entire body was cast from gold and resembled a great rock. He swooped down, aiming for Qin Wentian. Little rascal! Purgatory, who was below, exclaimed in shock. After that, the golden-winged great rock transformed into a snow-white little demon and rushed into Qin Wentian's embrace. Boo-hoo-hoo, you are finally back. Little rascal whimpered. He initially thought that Qin Wentian had died. It was only until he heard the news of Qin Wentian slaughtering his way into the Foarok race and Sun Gold demon race did he know that Qin Wentian was still alive. He and Qin Wentian could sense each other, but after that battle, the connection between them vanished. He basically didn't expect that Qin Wentian was still alive. Little rascal, I'm back. Qin Wentian rubbed Little Rascal's head as he spoke in a gentle voice. That old demon is dead. Little Rascal's voice was low as he spoke with sorrow. I know. I've already killed those two vile beasts and roasted them. You came back at the right time. Right now, there are many greater demons here. You can handle them. Qin Wentian spoke. Little Rascal inclined his head and stared at those bound greater demons. His body directly soared up into the air, transforming into a golden heaven-devouring beast that exuded an incomparably imposing might. That golden head of his exuded a terrifying baleful aura. With a flash of his silhouette, he directly appeared before a greater demon from the Sun Gold demon race. His golden claws slammed into the head of the greater demon as terrifying golden runic light flashed. The greater demon screamed in agony as his body was devoured bit by bit. Heaven-devouring beasts could even devour the sun, moon, and constellations. There was nothing they couldn't devour. Very swiftly, this greater demon from the Sun Gold demon race was devoured. Little Rascal's silhouette flashed unceasingly, devouring the captured greater demons one by one, turning them into nutrients for him. How brutal! The expressions of many greater demons changed. The hearts of the humans in this vast space trembled violently. Qin Wentian had no expression on his face as he stared at Little Rascal, venting his anger. This was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. If it wasn't Little Rascal devouring them, it was them devouring Little Rascal. Staring at the heaven-devouring beast frenziedly, as well as the white-robed figure standing with his hands clasped behind his back, everyone sighed in their hearts. In the future, they better not antagonize this baleful god, Qin Wentian. Chapter 1694. In the vast space, so many demon emperors were actually transformed into nutrients for the heaven-devouring beast. This was simply a shocking sight. The hearts of many demons trembled. The heaven-devouring beast was as expected of a demonic beast, it was actually able to contain so many greater demons. Also, there didn't seem to be any changes to its body. Finally, the heaven-devouring beast devoured all the demonic beasts Qin Wendian entrapped. Its body transformed back into a snow-white little demon with a bulging stomach. It swayed as it walked towards Qin Wendian, lying in Qin Wendian's embrace lazily. After that, it actually closed its eyes as golden light shone from it. Qin Wendian was stunned. Did it have nothing better to do? Purgatory, take care of little rascal. Qin Wendian passed little rascal's body to purgatory. His gaze turned to the air as he spoke, since you are here, why don't you come out? Is there any meaning in hiding? The hearts of many people trembled. There were still experts here. Among the crowd, there were many peak-stage demon emperors. If they didn't know that there were people here, didn't this mean that these people were even more terrifying compared to them? At this moment, 3 figures descended, landing in the midst of the Jiang clan's experts. Their gazes were terrifying, able to penetrate through everything. The Jiang clan of the southern regions had always been mysterious and unfathomable. They seemed low-profile and didn't pursue hegemony, but they gave off a sense of danger. Right now, 3 Empyreans actually appeared. The eyes of everyone stared at them as they felt great waves of shock in their hearts. Were these 3 people all at the ancient emperor level? If this was the case, wasn't this a little too terrifying? 3 Empyreans, the Jiang clan is truly going all out. Qin Wendian spoke. His words undoubtedly verified the guesses of everyone, causing their hearts to tremble. The Jiang clan's inheritance originated from the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Jiang clan in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms is only a branch. One of them spoke. Qin Wendian silently mused that the waters of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms were truly very deep. The Heavenly Talisman Realm, the Jiang clan, the Ying clan and the others were all hegemonic powers of the upper world. Also, now that the situation has relaxed, so many experts from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms came to Azure Mystic. Clearly, the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms weren't what they appeared to be on the surface. If not, there was no need for these Empyreans to come here. There were no mines in Azure Mystic and the strength of the cultivators here was also very weak. What was the point of them coming here? If it was purely for the sake of recruiting disciples, there were so many experts in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms and countless geniuses. There was no need for them to travel across the Immortal Realms and spend so much effort to come to Azure Mystic to recruit disciples. In the air, more experts descended. However, they didn't join any of the camps. They only smiled and said, "We're just passing by to watch the show." More than 10 transcendents appeared in different directions, appearing from the void. Upon seeing this scene, the hearts of the experts from Azure Mystic trembled violently. There were actually so many transcendents hidden in the dark. These were all at the level of ancient emperors. They simply couldn't imagine that there were actually so many transcendents gathered in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. This made it hard for them to accept this. However, Qin Wendian already knew that the experts from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms would come to Azure Mystic. With such a major incident happening in Azure Mystic, there would naturally be some people here to spectate. Although these people were in the dark, how could they hide from his immortal sense? Everyone from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms are all Empyreans, guests of Azure Mystic. Qin Wendian calmly spoke. He wouldn't offend these people from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. People from the Heavenly Talisman Realm, just come out. There's no need to hide anymore. Qin Wendian stared in the direction of the Immortal Qinbian Gate as he spoke. He knew that the Heavenly Talisman Realm was able to open a spatial tunnel in the void. Although he didn't sense their presence in the surroundings, he knew that the Heavenly Talisman Realm had already arrived. Heavenly Talisman Realm. Many people in the air turned their gazes in the direction of the Immortal Qinbian Gate. After that, someone laughed, I didn't expect them to be people from the Heavenly Talisman realm. Also, they actually have such a major power in Azure Mystic. Seems like they have prepared for many years. In the void, a bright light flashed as several figures walked out. All of them were Empyreans at the ancient emperor level. Their auras were terrifying and they were clad in violet gold robes, exuding a sense of imposingness. These were none other than experts from the Heavenly Talisman realm. In the vast space, countless people stared at the Empyreans who appeared. At this moment, they only felt that this was a surreal scene. Today, they initially thought that the peak powers of Azure Mystic would contend against each other. But at this moment, they suddenly discovered to their disbelief that the peak powers of the immortal realms didn't even have the qualifications to speak. Also, Qin Wentian clearly already knew of this situation. After stepping into the ancient emperor realm, Qin Wentian had long since no longer placed many of the major powers in Azure Mystic in his eyes. He gathered all the major powers of Azure Mystic for revenge. This was merely the first step. Before this, he concealed his true cultivation base and didn't reveal his strength as an ancient emperor because he wanted to send the enemies of the evergreen immortal empire to their deaths. At this moment, only now did the people of Azure Mystic truly feel that Qin Wentian was no longer on the same level as them. The him who returned was an ancient emperor character. They could only look up to him in admiration. Since the devil cultivators from the myriad devil islands have already arrived at the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, what are their intentions? Why are you all crowding around here? At this moment, an Empyrean from the Jiang clan spoke, his words causing the eyes of everyone to flash. The devil cultivators from the myriad devil islands have also arrived? Although his voice wasn't loud, everyone in the royal capital of the Evergreen Immortal Empire could hear it. Everyone quietly waited, and not too long after, a fearsome devil might gushed over from afar, exuding an extreme devil might that caused everyone to feel stifled. The experts from the 6 devil halls, as well as the emperors of the various regions, have all arrived. A terrifying army of the devil path that could contend against the Immortal Realms Alliance has arrived. Right now in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, immortals, demons and devils each occupied a territory. Long before the appearance of the Demon God Mountain, the myriad devil islands and the immortal realms Wuxiu used the Devil Gate as their boundary, mutually restricting each other. If the devil forces of the myriad devil islands were to gather together, they would be able to contend against the Immortal Realms Alliance. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful they would be. Right now, the experts from the 6 devil halls were all here. How terrifying was their lineup? Does the myriad devil islands want to dominate the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms? But why don't I see the myriad devil sovereign? The people from the Jiang clan laughed. No matter how strong the devil army was, if there weren't any Empyreans among them, they wouldn't even be worth a mention. Before Empyreans, immortal emperors were like ants. This point could be seen from Qin Wentian's actions earlier. The gazes of the devil cultivators turned to the center of the crowd, staring at the white-robed figure as they bowed in unison. We pay our respects to the devil sovereign. We pay our respects to the devil sovereign. The troops of the myriad devil islands all bowed in that direction, causing the expressions of everyone to stiffen. Over there, in the airspace above the royal capital of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, Qin Wentian could be seen standing there. At this instant, the hearts of many involuntarily trembled. Dispense with the formalities. Qin Wentian radiated boundless devil might, exuding a terrifying pressure. With a wave of his hand, countless devil cultivators inclined their heads. At this instant, the hearts of countless people trembled violently. So it turned out that Qin Wentian was none other than the myriad devil sovereign. They initially thought that after Qin Wentian returned from the upper world, he would use his overwhelming strength to take revenge, suppressing the world and controlling the Evergreen Kingdom with the help of the Namhuang clan, GD, and the others. However, they didn't expect that Qin Wentian had already become the myriad devil sovereign. In the vast devil islands, countless devil cultivators all treated him as their lord. If those experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms were eliminated, just based on Qin Wentian's strength alone, it would be sufficient for him to dominate the world, challenging the entire immortal realms. He was simply too powerful. Even the powerful immortal Qianbian Gate had no way to be mentioned in the same breath as them. After all, the devil cultivators of the myriad devil islands all listened to his commands. Just this force alone already had the strength to contend against the immortal realms. Brother Qin actually already controls the myriad devil islands. Since this is the case, the devil cultivators of the myriad devil islands are all gathered here. Are you preparing to command the immortal realms and the demons of the desolate mountains to submit to Brother Qin? Jiang Zihua spoke. Who is your brother Qin? As the sound of Jiang Zihua's voice faded, Qin Wendian glanced over and coldly spoke, Are you even worthy? Jiang Zihua's gaze froze as his expression instantly turned extremely unsightly. Qin Wentian's words were akin to smacking his face in public. However, who would dare to say that Qin Wentian's words were wrong? Right now, Qin Wentian was someone who could even kill ancient emperors. No matter how high his talent was, he was merely an immortal emperor. Let alone, could his talent surpass Qin Wentian? If Qin Wentian said that he wasn't worthy, he didn't even have the qualifications to refute. Jiang Zihua coldly snorted. Although Qin Wentian was an Empyrean, he still felt extremely embarrassed to be humiliated in public. He coldly spoke, as expected, things are different now. Are you already looking down on those of the same generation as you? Qin Wentian stared at Jiang Zihua, his terrifying gaze penetrating through everything. At this instant, Jiang Zihua only felt that he had entered a miraculous state. It was like he was being seen through by Qin Wentian. Back then in the city of ancient emperors, when I transformed into the saber-sword immortal king, were you the one who revealed my identity? Qin Wentian's voice directly rang out in Jiang Zihua's mind, causing his eyes to narrow as his expression instantly changed. Are you trying to provoke me? Humph, Qin Wentian snorted, his voice rang out in Jiang Zihua's mind. Earlier, Jiang Zihua's actions didn't escape his eyes. His eyes of truth could see through all illusions. Just like what he guessed, it was indeed Jiang Zihua. The Jiang clan had a secret art that allowed them to control the immortal senses of others. Qin Wentian's transformation into the saber-sword immortal king had no flaws at all. Hence, he suspected Jiang Zihua. I'll take his life. Qin Wentian didn't look at Jiang Zihua, he was staring at the three Empyreans of the Jiang clan instead. Indeed, there was no need for him to look up to Jiang Zihua. Given his current cultivation base and status, killing Jiang Zihua was as easy as a thought. If it wasn't for the fact that the Jiang clan had Empyreans, he would have already killed Jiang Zihua. How arrogant! The Jiang clan leader coldly spoke. Bullying others too much. Qin Wentian, what qualifications do you have to do this? Jiang Zihua glared hatefully at Qin Wentian. What sort of character was he? He was one of the strongest geniuses of the Jiang clan, the future successor of the Jiang clan. However, he actually suffered such humiliation here. Based on the fact that you almost killed me in the city of ancient emperors. Qin Wentian spoke. Who can prove that I'm the one who did it? Jiang Zihua coldly spoke. There's no need for anyone to prove it. It's up to you. If I feel that it's me, then it's me. Qin Wentian tyrannically spoke. Chapter 1695. If I feel that it is, then it is. Qin Wentian's tone was extremely tyrannical, disregarding everything in his eyes. He didn't need any evidence or anyone to prove it. He felt that it was enough. The reason why Qin Wentian said this was because he didn't have any evidence, nor could he find any. However, he knew that it was definitely Jiang Zihua. The people of the Jiang clan were low-profile and mysterious, but they always gave him a very bad impression. Ever since Jiang Zihua's younger brother, Jiang Ziyu, clashed with him in the inheritance grounds of the Namhuang clan and invited him to the Jiang clan many times, Qin Wentian had always been on guard against them. Right now, 3 Empyreans from the Jiang clan descended to the lower world from the supreme ancient immortal realms. From this, one could very well imagine how deep they had hidden themselves. You want to kill someone from my Jiang clan just because you feel that way. Do you think we will agree? An Empyrean from the Jiang clan spoke. So what if Qin Wendian killed an Empyrean? That Empyrean was merely an ordinary Empyrean. They had 3 Empyreans from the supreme ancient immortal realms. Also, given their strength in the supreme ancient immortal realms, a mere azure mystic immortal realms was nothing in their eyes. Although this Qin Wendian was at the Empyrean realm, if he was in the supreme ancient immortal realms, they wouldn't care at all. It was only because this world was sealed that Qin Wendian dared to be so impudent before them. Even if you all don't agree, I still want to kill them. I have to settle the enmity between us. Qin Wendian continued. You have more subordinates. It should be easier for you to kill them. The Empyrean from the Jiang clan coldly threatened. I'll remember your words. Qin Wendian stared at the Empyrean and didn't continue to speak. He then glanced in the direction of the Heavenly Talisman Realm. I already know where the Heavenly Talisman Realm is in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Now that I've died once, my fate with the Heavenly Talisman Realm has also been severed. However, I've received their kindness in the past and I'm not willing to start a war with them. I hope that the Heavenly Talisman Realm can release Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya. Qin Wendian's words were filled with sincerity. Although the actions of the Heavenly Talisman Realm couldn't be said to be wrong, after all, they wanted to dominate the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. However, due to some uncontrollable factors, he was destined to walk in a different direction from the Heavenly Talisman Realm. In that case, he decided to end everything here. As long as the Heavenly Talisman Realm was willing to release Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya, all the grudges of the past would vanish like smoke. In the future, if they met again on the path of dominance, they would fight against each other, relying on their own methods. But if the Heavenly Talisman Realm wasn't willing to release them, for the sake of Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya, the Heavenly Talisman Realm wouldn't just be an opponent on the path of dominance. They would become enemies as well. How can we give up on traitors so easily? However, they are still members of our sect after all. As long as you and them are willing to submit, our Heavenly Talisman Realm is willing to accept you all into our sect again. One of the Empyreans from the Heavenly Talisman Realm in the lead calmly spoke. How could it be so simple if they wanted them to release Qin Wendian? No matter what, the Heavenly Talisman Realm was the overlord of a world in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. These people have already entered the tutelage of the Heavenly Talisman Realm Lord. How could they betray him just because he said so? What did the Heavenly Talisman Realm mean? Maybe, they basically didn't know what sort of existence the Heavenly Talisman Realm was. Right now, the laws of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms had changed and the seals were loosened, completely disrupting their original plans. Unifying the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms was no longer as important as before. However, if they could unify this entire world, it would still be of some use. In addition, they had spent so many years of effort, they didn't want to waste their efforts just like that. They rejected us. Qin Wendian silently sighed in his heart. His gaze turned to Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya. His white robes fluttered in the wind. He stood there, nobody knew what he was thinking. Heavenly Talisman Realm, are you sure you want to do this? Qin Wendian asked again. The words of a saint carry enormous weight. You should understand the meaning of being an Empyrean. The 4 Empyreans of the Heavenly Talisman Realm naturally wouldn't compromise. Qin Wendian also didn't have the qualifications to make them compromise. Fine. Since this is the case, Mengchen, senior brother Bai, wait for me for a few days. I will naturally rescue the 2 of you. Qin Wendian stared at Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya as he spoke. Senior brother Qin, I will wait for you. Jun Mengchen had a radiant smile on his face. Although he was imprisoned, he was still very happy to see his senior brother Qin returning alive and in such a domineering manner. He was truly happy. He believed in his senior brother Qin's words. If his senior brother Qin said he would be able to rescue him, he would definitely be able to. Right. Bai Wuya nodded and only spoke a single word. Qin Wendian no longer glanced at the experts from the Heavenly Talisman Realm. He stared at the people in the air and spoke. I, Qin Wendian, summoned the experts of the immortal realms here for 2 reasons. Firstly, It's for revenge. Now that the grudge has been settled, the second reason is to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. In the history of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, there have been many ancient emperors who unified the Immortal Realms, leaving behind a glorious history. Today, I'm imitating the ancient emperors and wish to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, putting an end to the chaos and killing each other. In this chaotic era, the geniuses contended for supremacy, Tao elements appeared. How can it be so easy to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms? Someone spoke. It's precisely because of this that the rules of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms have changed. This is why we need to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms and set a new rule. Right now, it's time for cultivation to flourish. Our Azure Mystic Immortal Realms should have many outstanding geniuses who can verify their Daos and become ancient emperors. The present cannot be compared to the past. With so many Empyreans descending from the supreme ancient immortal realms, even if you all stepped into the ancient emperor realm, who can be invincible under the heavens? Just with me around, no one can defeat me. Since this is the case, what's the point of killing each other? After everyone comprehend the Tao elements, if you can verify your Daos, you will naturally have a way to head to the supreme ancient immortal realms. Qin Wentian continued, Azure Mystic is boundlessly vast, there are countless experts here. However, other than those from the supreme ancient immortal realms, who in Azure Mystic can be stronger than me? I want to unify the Azure Mystic immortal realms, it isn't for myself. All of you are useless to me. As for the so-called glory, I feel even more disdain for it. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, I'm also a palace lord and the territory I govern isn't any weaker than the Azure Mystic immortal realms. Hence, I hope to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. It's not because of fame and benefits. Those who are willing to submit to me will be under my protection. However, all of you have to listen to my commands. Everyone, please consider it carefully. The experts from the various powers felt their hearts shaking when they heard Qin Wentian's words. In the history of Azure Mystic, there were ancient emperors who unified the world, but they eventually had to leave. To them, fame and benefits truly didn't have much meaning. Right now, Qin Wentian already controlled the myriad Devil Islands and the Evergreen Kingdom. In addition, the Namhuang clan, GD, and many other powers would clearly follow him. The strength under his control already surpassed half of the peak powers in the immortal realms. If they submitted to him, they would be able to form an extremely powerful alliance. If they didn't submit, they wouldn't be protected. This was especially so when the power under Qin Wentian's control suppressed them. They basically wouldn't be able to say anything. This was something they had to consider. My heavenly talisman realm has established the immortal Qianbian gate in Azure Mystic, similarly wanting to unify the immortal realms. For those who are willing to submit to my immortal Qianbian gate, they will be protected by our heavenly talisman realm. An expert from the heavenly talisman realm spoke. The heavenly talisman realm is a major power in the supreme ancient immortal realms and has existed for countless years in Azure Mystic. In the future, there would be more Empyreans descending here. Everyone, please consider this carefully. Who is willing to follow my Jiang clan? An expert from the Jiang clan spoke. The Empyreans in the air all had expressions of interest on their faces. Right now, 3 hegemonic powers were vying for control of the immortal realms. How interesting would these people choose? No matter who they chose, they would definitely offend the other 2 hegemonic powers. Would they be able to endure such rage? My Wenxin Temple will not participate in the disputes of Azure Mystic. The Reverend from the Wenxin Temple pressed his palms together. Reverend, given the current circumstances of Azure Mystic, how can the Wenxin Temple stand alone? The expert from the Jiang clan calmly spoke. Reverend, your state of heart is transcendent. Wenxin Temple is a sacred ground. If you are unwilling to participate in the disputes of Azure Mystic, I naturally won't force you. I, Qin, am willing to protect Azure Mystic. If there's anyone who dares to disturb the cultivation of the reverends from the Wenxin Temple, that person would be my enemy. Qin Wentian spoke, his words causing the Empyreans from the Jiang clan to glance at him. Was he trying to oppose him? The words of the two of them clearly showed the difference in their demeanor. This old monk represents the Wenxin temple to thank benefactor Qin. The Reverend pressed his palms together and bowed. Reverend is too polite. Qin Wendian returned the gesture. Back then, the Wenxin temple acted for him. This was something that should be done. The immortal realms are in chaos. I also don't wish for the world to be filled with killing and corpses. I'm willing to follow the general trend. The Hokage Sengoku Kingdom shall follow the footsteps of the Evergreen Kingdom. The Dark North Immortal Emperor contemplated for a moment before he spoke. Since Qin Wendian was acquainted with his daughter Yu Huang and was also good friends with Nong Yue, he naturally was willing to stand on Qin Wendian's side. Many thanks for uncle's help. Qin Wendian spoke to the Dark North Immortal Emperor, referring to him as uncle, treating the Dark North Immortal Emperor as an elder. This caused many people to have strange looks on their faces. The Dark North Immortal Emperor also felt more at ease. Since the Dark North Immortal Emperor is willing to submit, my 100 Refinements sect, Jadestige Immortal Palace and Hokage Sengoku Kingdom are one. We are willing to submit as well. The sect leader of the 100 Refinements sect stated. The Jadestige Immortal Palace mistress nodded to Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian nodded to both sides. In the northern regions of the Immortal Realms, they would be able to conquer half of it. My Chaotic Sky sect is willing to submit to the Jiang clan. Hearing the Chaotic Sky sect's expert express his stance, the Jiang clan's Transcendent One smiled and said, "Your choice will be wise." After that, the various major powers all expressed their stances. The Shooting Sun Kingdom of the Central Region was willing to follow Qin Wendian. The Thunder God Hall, Snowdrift Sage Hall, Nibblesky Sacred Sect were all willing to follow the Jiang clan. Some of the major powers in the western regions, as well as the Beast God sect, were willing to submit to the immortal Qianbian Gate. Just like what the Empyreans of the Jiang clan have said, in this chaotic world, since Empyreans appeared, they were destined to unify the immortal realms. The demons of the Desolate Mountains are willing to retreat to the desolate 10,000 mountain range, not entering the immortal realms. A greater demon from the demon race, Baze, spoke in a light voice. Back then when the demon god mountain appeared, the demons of the Desolate Mountains were all unexcelled in the world. But now, due to the circumstances, quite a few of their demon races were massacred, causing the other demons to feel sympathy for them. But they were also unwilling to submit to Wu Xiu. Hence, they could only retreat. Return to the Desolate Mountains? Many people coldly laughed. The immortal realms were already like this, how could they retreat just because they wanted to? But right now, they didn't express their stance. In the future, everything would be clear. Today, countless experts of the immortal realms gathered in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. Qin Wendian tyrannically took revenge, killing countless experts and Empyreans. But in the end, the immortal realms were divided into 3 factions. Chapter 1696. Qin Wendian stood in the air, staring at the experts here. The situation today was naturally impossible to resolve. He wanted to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, but the Empyreans from both the Jiang clan and Heavenly Talisman realm stepped out. In such a situation, it was clearly impossible for them to start a war. If not, regardless of victory or defeat, the people around him would surely suffer a calamity. Since everyone has made their choice, the matter today shall end here. Everyone, please return. Qin Wendian waved his hand, incomparably carefree. All his enemies who encircled the Evergreen Kingdom back then were all killed by him. Next, only the unification of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms was left. There was still the matter of Jun Mengchen, Bai Wuya and the others that had yet to be rescued. The experts from the Heavenly Talisman realm stared at Qin Wendian. Was this an expulsion order? Qin Wendian, are you really determined not to submit to your sect? The Empyreans from the Heavenly Talisman realm were still filled with reluctance. If Qin Wendian submitted, even if the Jiang clan was weak, they could directly unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. If Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya suffered any injuries, I want the Heavenly Talisman realm to be buried together with them. Qin Wendian coldly spoke. The four Empyreans from the heavenly talisman realm glared at Qin Wendian as killing intent flashed in their eyes. It was as though they wanted to kill Qin Wendian right now. Qin Wendian, you will regret this. The experts from the heavenly talisman realm spoke. After that, they waved their hands and led the experts from the immortal Qianbian gate away. Farewell. The experts from the Jiang clan also led their subordinates away. The experts from the myriad devil islands allowed them to leave. The people in the royal palace all felt a sense of loss and disappointment. The things that happened today toppled everything they knew. Even Empyreans had fallen, and all the ancient emperors appeared at the same time. This was simply too shocking. Sadly, a heaven-shaking battle didn't occur in the end, allowing the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms to be unified. But no matter what, the things that happened today in the Evergreen Kingdom were already sufficient to be recorded in the annals of history. There were very few records of ancient emperors, but today, they witnessed Qin Wendian killing an ancient emperor character, a living legend. 1,000 years later, this would surely become a legend in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, leaving behind a glorious stroke in the annals of history. After nearly 200 years, the two wars that occurred in the Evergreen Kingdom were both historic immortal wars. With disappointment in their hearts, many people left. There were also some who decided to stay in the Evergreen Kingdom. Since the immortal realms were now divided into three parts, it was clear that Qin Wendian would use the Evergreen Kingdom as his base of operations. Maybe, this royal capital of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms would become a majestic city that had never existed before. The major powers that submitted to Qin Wendian didn't leave. They still had some misgivings. This was especially so for the Shooting Sun Kingdom. Right now, the Immortal Realms were divided into three factions. Peak stage immortal emperors were no longer as important. Only Empyreans had the qualifications to decide the overall situation of the immortal realms. Today, Qin Wendian's performance was so domineering, killing ancient emperors and controlling more than half of the immortal realms. But why were there still so many powers that submitted to the Jiang clan and the immortal Qianbian gate? Because, Qin Wendian was only a single Empyrean while the other party had several Empyreans. This directly influenced the choices of many people. Those Empyreans who came to watch the show also left. The demons of the desolate mountain range that invaded the immortal realms also began to retreat, preparing to return to the desolate mountains or focus on cultivation. After the demon god mountain, the desolate mountains underwent a transformation. Initially, they thought that they would be able to contend for supremacy under the heavens. But who would have thought that the rules of Azure Mystic would change and so many Empyreans would appear? In the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, after everyone dispersed, there were still many experts remaining. The Dark North Immortal Emperor and Bai Mingnong Yue, the sect leader of the 100 Refinements sect, and Li Yufeng, the Supreme Beauty Palace mistress of the Jadestige Immortal Palace, the ruler of the Shooting Sun Kingdom, and the other princes and princesses all walked over, standing before Qin Wendian, yet they didn't know how to address him. Right now, given Qin Wendian's current strength, it wasn't too much to address him as a senior. But after all, Qin Wendian was still too young. Everyone, just call me Wendian. Qin Wendian didn't care too much about formalities. This isn't too appropriate. The ruler of the Shooting Sun Kingdom spoke. Right now, you already control over half of the immortal realms. You will eventually need a title. The people of the myriad devil islands can call themselves devil sovereigns, but what should we call ourselves? His words were filled with goodwill. Directly addressing Qin Wendian, as Qin Wendian was a little too arrogant. Ordinary emperors are no longer sufficient to describe your cultivation base. Qin Wendian has the word heaven in it. Why don't we call you Heaven Empyrean? The palace mistress of the Jadestige Immortal Palace spoke in a gentle voice, extremely pleasant to the ears. As the sound of her voice faded, the eyes of many flashed. This name wasn't bad at all. Qin Wendian's cultivation base had already surpassed the realm of emperors. It wasn't appropriate for him to call himself an emperor. However, the word Heaven Empyrean didn't merely represent one's cultivation base. It was also a form of respect. Heaven Empyrean, the monarch of the heavens, controlling the entire sky. Good name. The ruler of the Shooting Sun Kingdom nodded. Indeed, it's not bad. Why don't we call you Heaven Empyrean? Since you wish to unify Azure Mystic, you must have a title. Since the Dark North Immortal Emperor has spoken, Qin Wendian nodded lightly. The words of the Dark North Immortal Emperor were right. Since he wanted to unify Azure Mystic, he needed a title. The word, Heaven Empyrean, was more suitable. We pay our respects to the Heaven Empyrean. The sect leader of the 100 Refinements sect bowed. We pay our respects to the Heaven Empyrean. The experts here all bowed together to show their respect. The Southern Phoenix matriarch and the others smiled. After that, their silhouettes flashed as they appeared around Qin Wendian. We pay our respects to the Heaven Empyrean. Everyone, there's no need to be so polite. Qin Wendian stretched out his hand. Since everyone is willing to advance and retreat together with me, I'm prepared to use the Evergreen Kingdom as the foundation to construct teleportation arrays between the major powers, connecting all of them together to deal with the changes in Azure Mystic. Right. Everyone nodded. However, I still have a suggestion. I hope that all the major powers can relocate to the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. Qin Wendian spoke, causing the expressions of the experts here to change. Qin Wendian knew what they were thinking and continued, I'm not doing this because I want the Evergreen Kingdom to control all of you. Right now, the immortal realms are in chaos. Since all of you trust me, I naturally have to be responsible for all of you. In times of chaos, even if you managed to construct teleportation arrays, Empyreans would be able to destroy them instantly. There's no way for us to activate them in time. The Evergreen Kingdom Palace is extremely vast. We can construct many buildings of the same level as the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, guarding the various locations of the royal palace. Now that the spatial passageway between the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms and the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms has been opened, there would be many Empyreans from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms descending. I temporarily have no idea what the reason is, but this matter will be concluded sooner or later. At that time, I will also return to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. At that time, if everyone is willing to follow me to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms or stay behind, I won't force you. At that time, if you all want to move back to your original location, you can do so as well. Qin Wendian slowly spoke. Everyone nodded. There was indeed no problem with Qin Wendian saying this. In the future, after Qin Wendian left, the unified Azure Mystic Immortal Realms would no longer be as united as a piece of iron. Without Empyreans to maintain the stability of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms would definitely disintegrate. From this, it seems that Qin Wendian truly didn't have any selfish motives. Also, to them, the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms was extremely tempting. Many of them have been stuck at the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm for far too many years, yet they had no way to break through. Everyone, just make your choice. I won't force you all. Since I promised to protect all of you, I will naturally do my best. However, if I can't do it with my strength, don't blame me. Qin Wendian spoke. We understand the heart of the Heaven Empyrean. My Hokage Sengoku Kingdom is willing to relocate. The Dark North Immortal Emperor spoke. The immortal realms are boundlessly vast, it was impossible to control everyone. In the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, was the Lifefire Palace strong enough? But it was also impossible for everyone to listen to their orders. But in truth, if one controlled the power of the upper echelons, it was equivalent to controlling everything. Since this is the case, my 100 Refinements sect is also willing to relocate. Everyone expressed their stance. Qin Wendian smiled and nodded. Changqing the Great, Nanfeng Yaoyue and the others all laughed. They knew that a hegemonic power in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms would soon be born in the Evergreen Kingdom. Go! Qin Wendian waved his hand. His silhouette descended from the air. The storm that shook the Immortal Realms finally came to an end. The Immortal Realms shook as countless people discussed about this. The Supreme Genius Qin Wendian has returned today. He has already become an ancient emperor-level existence, standing above all immortal emperors. The names of the Demon Lord and the Celestial Emperor spread throughout the world. Those who had witnessed the battle with their own eyes became guests of honor no matter where they went. They became the topic of their conversations. Gradually, many people who had not witnessed the battle began to brag about it. When they talked about the battle, it was as if they had seen it with their own eyes. They described it vividly. In the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, countless experts of the immortal realms gathered, unwilling to leave. They heard that the Heaven Empyrean wanted to establish the Evergreen Kingdom as an alliance of hegemonic powers in the immortal realms. How could they miss out on such an opportunity? Right now, every inch of land in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom was as valuable as gold. Countless people were vying for it. The expansion of the royal palace, the Evergreen Kingdom, the Namhuang clan and many other major powers gathered all the skilled craftsmen in the world, using their powerful cultivation bases to construct immortal palaces. The Namhuang clan, the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, the 100 Refinement sect, the Jadestige Immortal Palace and others all started to construct immortal palaces. For a period of time, it was unknown how lively the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom was. In a city in the eastern regions of the immortal realms, many people in an inn were discussing about the matters that happened in the Evergreen Kingdom. At this moment, two travel-worn figures entered the inn and sat down, ordering some food and wine. These two people were a man and a woman. Their combination was extremely unharmonious. The man was chubby and had a cultivation base at the Immortal Foundation realm, while the woman was extremely beautiful. Our days are truly miserable, we actually spent so much effort. Xian Xian, this fatty has let you down, I made you suffer with me. Fatty had a pitiful look on his face as he stared at the woman. That beautiful woman rolled her eyes. We've already followed you for so many years and you're still talking about this? Compared to the past, it's already very good for us to have a foothold in the immortal realms. Emichim, come, wife, eat more. In the future when this fatty strikes it rich, I will roast some greater demons for you to nourish your body. Fatty laughed. Ha, Fatty, you really know how to boast shamelessly. Do you think you are the Heaven Empyrean? Someone at the side laughed. Yeah, how glorious is the Heaven Empyrean. He roasted the demon kings of the Foarok race and Sun Gold demon race and fed them to his demonic beast companions. Truly unparalleled since ancient times. It's the Heaven Empyrean again. Fatty's eyes flashed. This time after he returned, he discovered that many people mentioned this title. It seemed that the Heaven Empyrean was an extraordinary existence, a supreme character in the immortal realms. Yeah, it's rumored that the Heaven and Earth Empyrean originated from a particle world. Back then, he was even rejected by the Eastern Sage Immortal sect as a disciple. After that, he entered the Immortal Champion Gate. Who would have thought that he would have such accomplishments today? The Eastern Sage Immortal sect must have been blind. What did you guys say? Fatty jumped up from his chair. When he saw the gazes of everyone turning to him, he swallowed his saliva and asked, Who is the Heaven Empyrean? The Heaven Empyrean is naturally the Heaven Empyrean. He naturally has another identity, the Myriad Devil Sovereign, the current #1 character in the world. That person spoke. I'm asking for his name. Fatty shouted loudly. The Heaven Empyrean, Qin Wentian. Someone replied after a moment of silence, as boundless yearning could be seen in his eyes. When this name was mentioned, everyone had looks of worship in their eyes. Fatty blinked, he was stunned for a few seconds. After that, he jumped up. Fatty's beautiful life is finally here. Chapter 1697. In the blink of an eye, an Empyrean was insta-killed. Qin Wentian, you actually dare to be so impudent? That expert who just arrived roared. He was none other than the Empyrean guarding the Heavenly Talisman realm and was extremely powerful. A spatial gate appeared. Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu directly stepped into it. Their immortal senses swept out, enveloping many experts, but they didn't make a move. Many of them were characters below the immortal emperor realm. When the experts from the Heavenly Talisman realm discovered Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu, shock could be seen on their faces. If it was in the past, the Heavenly Talisman realm wouldn't be invaded because others wouldn't be able to enter. However, Qin Wentian could. The name of the Heaven Empyrean has already spread throughout the immortal realms. Just like what the matriarch Nanfeng Yaoyue said, everyone in the world knows of him. And earlier, the conversation between Hua Taishu and Qin Wentian made them feel that Hua Taishu has already reached Qin Wentian's level. The result is the same. Hua Taishu's voice was so calm that there were no fluctuations at all. He just broke through not long ago and stabilized his cultivation base when he learned of the news that Qin Wentian became a Heaven Empyrean and destroyed the Sun Gold race. Qin Wentian continued flying forward with Hua Taishu following closely behind him. The two of them captured more and more immortal emperors. As long as Qin Wentian willed it, these immortal emperors would instantly be annihilated. However, Qin Wentian didn't kill them. Unless there was no other choice, he wasn't willing to start a massacre in the Heavenly Talisman realm. Those immortal emperors all had looks of terror on their faces as they felt their hearts turning to ashes. Empyreans from the Heavenly Talisman realm were actually killed in a single strike by the two of them. Who would be able to defend against such an alliance? Boom! A heaven-shaking might gushed forth, instantly enveloping Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu. The entire sky changed color, and after that, the entire world froze as frost descended. Those immortal emperors felt their bodies stiffening, unable to move. Those vines lost their luster of life. Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu's bodies were about to freeze as well. Qin Wentian's gaze flickered. He felt that Hua Taishu had become different. A figure slowly walked over, exuding an incomparably majestic aura. Cracking sounds rang out as Hua Taishu and Qin Wentian both broke through the power of the ice seal. Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu continued forward, as if they did not care about the terrifying destructive power created by the two of them. In reality, it was normal for them to have such an effect. Hua Taishu was proficient in the power of reincarnation. After comprehending the source of his spiritual source, his eyes were the source of his spiritual source. With a single glance, he would release his reincarnation eye technique, causing people to be trapped within it and enter the image of reincarnation. The other party would not be able to break free immediately. This must be the real ancient emperor that was born in Qingxian. Qin Wentian did not expect it to be him. From the looks of it, the speed of his cultivation was not any slower than Qin Wentian, who had many opportunities. Both of them exuded magnificence through the generations. They were none other than Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu. They didn't head to the immortal Qianbian Gate but chose to enter the Heavenly Talisman realm instead. You destroyed the Sun Gold race. The person who came was also clad in white. His figure was tall and slender, exuding a transcendent aura. He stared at Qin Wentian as he asked. He believed that the changes in the Heavenly Talisman realm were all because of the will of some existences in the upper world. And this place was ultimately the place where he belonged. Although Qin Wentian didn't know what these people from the supreme ancient immortal realms were searching for, he knew that there would definitely be some secrets hidden in Azure Mystic. Back then, the Heavenly Talisman realm and the Jiang clan initially wanted to expand, borrowing the power of Azure Mystic to search for the secrets. But now that the restrictions were loosened, many experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms personally came to the lower world. Qin Wentian naturally didn't know that in the eastern regions of the immortal realms, a fatty was jumping in joy when he heard his name. He also didn't know that right now in the immortal realms, countless people who were acquainted with Qin Wentian felt great waves of shock in their hearts when they heard his name. Among these familiar people, there were friends and brothers whom Qin Wentian had gone through trials and tribulations together with. There were beautiful women who were secretly in love with him. There were also people who had grudges with him. All of them gradually heard of Qin Wentian's name. Qin Wentian knew that back then in the city of ancient emperors, the myriad incarnations immortal king died in the hands of the Sun Gold race. Hua Taishu naturally wanted revenge. In other words, even if Qin Wentian didn't act, the Sun Gold race would still become history. Where are Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya? If they don't speak, kill them. Qin Wendian spoke. The immortal emperors he captured all felt their hearts trembling. One of them spoke at the same time. They are in the immortal Qianbian Gate. The spatial passageway to the supreme ancient immortal realms has appeared. Seems like it's time for us to return. I heard that the immortal Qianbian Gate has captured Jun Mengchen. When are you heading there? I will accompany you there. Hua Taishu's voice didn't contain much emotions. However, he was willing to fight together with Qin Wendian. Back then in the city of ancient emperors, Qin Wendian, him, Jun Mengchen, Namhuang Yunxi and the others had fought side by side and experienced many things together. The two of them didn't bother about him. At this instant, Hua Taishu's eyes started to spin. They were no longer a pair of eyes, they were like a dimension, a world, directly enveloping that Empyrean from the heavenly talisman realm. At this instant, that Empyrean only felt his will going out of control. He was actually shuttling through the endless cycle of samsara as scenes flashed through his mind, causing him to lose control of himself. There's no need. You should have a messaging crystal on you, right? Give me one and you can directly contact me when the time comes. Hua Taishu's words caused Qin Wendian's eyes to flash with a strange light. Hua Taishu seemed to have a very good understanding of the supreme ancient immortal realms. However, he didn't ask anything and directly took out a messaging crystal and sent his immortal sense into it. After that, he passed his own messaging crystal to Hua Taishu. In the blink of an eye, several months passed. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms were still in a tripartite balance of power. However, none of them attacked each other. Maybe, all of them had some trepidation in their hearts. Seems like I've arrived before you and effected your revenge. Qin Wendian spoke. So it turned out that the person who came was none other than Hua Taishu. Time continued to flow by. After the tripartite balance of power was established, things seemed to be much calmer on the surface. In the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, several majestic ancient palaces could be seen, exuding uncanny workmanship. There were rumors saying that during the construction of these palaces, there were even supreme grandmaster-level characters who created grand formations. However, no one knew if the rumors were true or false. The Evergreen Kingdom Palace was even more majestic and majestic. Countless experts were busy working, but Qin Wendian was very carefree. Right now, with Mo Qingcheng, Little Rascal, Purgatory, and the others by his side, he could finally set aside some of the worries in his heart. Naturally, he wouldn't forget about the matter between Jun Mengchen and his senior brother Bai Wuya. Okay, when the time is right, I will head there. You can cultivate in the royal palace first. Qin Wendian spoke. Invasion. Qin Wendian has invaded. Very swiftly, the experts of the heavenly talisman realm spread the news. However, since Qin Wendian has already entered, he naturally wouldn't care. Swishing sounds rang out as a vine shot out with lightning speed, shooting towards an immortal emperor. That immortal emperor's expression drastically changed as he frantically tried to flee. However, how would he be able to escape in time? The thick vine directly wrapped around him. After that, Qin Wendian brought him along as they advanced. At this moment, in the immortal Qianbian Gate, before a floating immortal palace, 3 Empyreans were gathered together. Their expressions were extremely unsightly to behold. They have already received the news that Qin Wendian has invaded the heavenly talisman realm. Along the way, more and more immortal emperors were discovered. The vines danced about unceasingly. Qin Wendian seemed to have transformed into a tree demon. Not long after, over 10 immortal emperors were bound by the vines. These immortal emperors struggled madly, but how could they break free? On the other hand, Qin Wendian was still concerned about the major events in the immortal realms. According to his spies, many mysterious experts have appeared in many places in the supreme ancient immortal realms. They seemed to be searching for something and were extremely low profile. In fact, there were even people who saw Empyreans traveling to extremely faraway places, exploring the unknown regions of Azure Mystic. During these days, other than accompanying his friends and family, Qin Wendian would occasionally guide the Changqing the Great, the Southern Phoenix Matriarch and the others in their cultivation. Given his current strength and experience, it was naturally easy for him to do so. In addition, he also brought many treasures from the upper world for them to use. He hoped that they would be able to become Empyreans. Many among them had already been stuck at the peak stage of the immortal Emperor realm for many years. The distance between them and the Empyrean realm was just a matter of a single thought. He has already broken through to the Empyrean realm. Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice. Nam Huang Yunxi's beautiful eyes gleamed with sharpness. Little Rascal also had a look of shock on his face. After that, he lowered his head in dejection. "Ai, this genius has slacked off a little." However, Qin Wendian didn't manage to help them break through to the Empyrean realm. Instead, an Empyrean came to the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. And at this moment, Qin Wendian unleashed a powerful attack with extreme speed. How could he not kill his opponent? This was simply an unstoppable combination of attacks. An Empyrean didn't even have the chance to call for help or inform others before he vanished. That was an ancient emperor-level existence, yet he was insta-killed just like that. At this moment, a terrifying sense of danger bore down on him. He roared in rage, but his consciousness was still trapped in the world of reincarnation, unable to extricate himself. The destructive energy enveloped him and he couldn't control his fear. His body started to tremble and after that, he felt pain. However, this pain was very short because it only lasted for an instant. His entire body was destroyed by the attacks, disintegrating into nothingness. How could he still think? When Qin Wendian saw Hua Taishu, he started. This was especially so when he sensed the cultivation base of Hua Taishu. Great waves of shock rose in his heart. After exchanging immortal senses, Hua Taishu directly departed, as though he had never been here before. Qin Wendian stared at his departing back as a light of contemplation flashed in his eyes. At this moment, a few figures appeared beside Qin Wendian. Little Rascal and Nam Huang Yunxi also came over. Their eyes flashed with a bright light. Back then in the city of ancient emperors, they had fought side by side with Hua Taishu before. Today, the spatial passageway leading to the heavenly talisman realm was directly open from the outside. Two extraordinarily handsome figures in white entered the heavenly talisman realm together. Chapter 1698. Within the immortal Qianbian Gate, there were many familiar faces of Qin Wendian. The Emperor of Qianbian, the Taishan Immortal King, the Saber Lord of Death, Zi Qingxian, and the others. Their gazes turned to Qin Wendian as their hearts were in chaos. After that, they felt a sense of relief. Finally, everything has ended, they didn't have to shoulder all of this anymore. The Emperor of Qianbian could actually understand Qin Wendian's feelings. He actually didn't want to start a war with the heavenly talisman realm, but he had no choice but to do so. He understood this supreme genius whom he had personally watched grow up too well. Careful. The countenances of the three Empyreans drastically changed as their consciousnesses fell into a trance. The scenes in their minds were no longer under their control, but their reactions were extremely fast. One of the Empyreans unleashed boundless runic light as a golden screen of light instantly appeared in the sky. The runic light intersected with each other, transforming into a shield of law source energy in front of the Empyrean. Qin Wendian's palms blasted downwards, slamming into the golden screen of light, shattering it apart. The three Empyreans managed to break free as they instantly retreated in three different directions. Boom! A dazzling bolt of lightning exploded in the space enveloped by the wings of the great rock. Terrifying bolts of lightning shot forth, akin to divine lightning from the 9 heavens, wanting to destroy everything. It was simply unimaginable what would happen if that strike landed on Qin Wendian. But at this moment, it was actually blocked by a sword, enveloping the boundless destructive might within. Qin Wendian was trapped in the gravitational space, unable to move at all. Yet another Empyrean spear shot over, yet Qin Wendian only saw Qin Wendian waving his hands as an incomparably resplendent sword light flashed. A sword appeared in front of Qin Wendian, emitting a shrill screech as the sword's origin energy circulated around it. That sword suddenly transformed into a gigantic rock, spreading its wings wide open as it soared through the air. With a flap of its wings, the space in front of it was enveloped by the rock. Qin Wentian was known as the #1 in the world because he had killed a transcendent in the Evergreen Kingdom. He was indeed terrifying. That Empyrean who faced off against Qin Wentian earlier turned as pale as paper. He instantly retreated and executed incantations, wanting to open a spatial passageway to the heavenly talisman realm to flee. 3 Empyreans and 2 of his companions were killed. He knew that if he didn't leave now, there would be no suspense at all. He would die for sure. Light and sword intent gushed forth frenziedly, gushing towards that Empyrean. That Empyrean had a layer of terrifying defensive source energy protecting him, but at this moment, a sharp whistling sound rang out as the demon's sword pierced through space, piercing through the body of that Empyrean. For an Empyrean who had no will to fight and wanted to flee, his combat prowess would naturally be greatly reduced. Also, his back was facing Qin Wentian, how could he not die? Hence, there was no need to choose. Everything happened too quickly. In the time it takes for sparks to fly off a piece of flint, a Buddhist Dharma body manifested around Qin Wentian. Millions of arms extended out at the same time, manifesting a giant palm imprint that was akin to a divinity manifested, blasting towards that Empyrean who was trapped in the Samsara Eye technique. The experts of the immortal Qianbian Gate all stared in shock at the palm imprint slamming into that Empyrean from the heavenly talisman realm. A thunderous boom rang out as the heavens and earth trembled. Go! The eyes of the 3 of them gleamed with killing intent as they executed incantations. A moment later, an entrance appeared, directly opening up a pathway to the heavenly talisman realm. But at this moment, they only saw a spatial rift opening up as ancient vines shot over, binding over 10 immortal emperors before them. Behind them, Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu appeared. Qin Wentian directly commanded the experts of the heavenly talisman realm to open up a pathway to the immortal Qianbian Gate for them, bringing them here. 3 Empyreans were all killed, not a single one was left. The Empyrean guarding the heavenly talisman realm must have also died. The immortal Qianbian Gate, which originally had the strongest power, was instantly destroyed, becoming history in this chaotic world, leaving behind only a short period of glory. I initially didn't wish to do this, but since you all wanted to force me, I can only do this. Qin Wentian emotionlessly spoke. Hua Taishu didn't say anything. His eyes were terrifying as the eyes of Samsara appeared once more. In an instant, the 3 Empyreans felt themselves falling into a trap, unable to extricate themselves. With a piercing sound, the sword light slashed down. The great rock slashed through the air as fresh blood splattered. That Empyrean was shredded into nothingness bit by bit under the radiance of the great rock. At this moment, the hearts of countless people pounded madly. From the moment Hua Taishu and Qin Wentian appeared at the immortal Qianbian Gate, only a few breaths of time had passed. The battle erupted too quickly, the speed of their attacks was also extremely fast. In just an instant, an Empyrean was killed by Hua Taishu and Qin Wentian. In addition, this was a situation where 3 Empyreans were fighting against Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu. Hua Taishu was still holding onto the Empyrean in the middle, not allowing him to break free from his Samsara Eye technique. However, the Samsara Emperor Hua Taishu had actually also reached this level and was actually so powerful. This caused the people of the immortal Qianbian Gate to feel extremely shocked. They couldn't help but to think that the ancient emperor guarding the heavenly talisman realm was most probably killed by these 2. Under the situation where 3 Empyreans were ganging up on them, one of them was actually killed by them. Let alone the fact that the ancient emperor of the heavenly talisman realm was guarding the heavenly talisman realm alone. How could he not die when facing the combined attacks of 2 Empyreans? Hua Taishu's eyes of samsara stared at the Empyrean who was proficient in gravity. He was similarly enduring the terrifying gravity and found it hard to move. However, his samsara eye technique caused his opponent to fall into a trap with a single glance. The 2 of them faced off against each other. He naturally understood that once he decided to act, he had to eliminate the threat immediately. If not, there would be endless repercussions in the future. At such a moment, he couldn't show any mercy. He also understood that although he still cared a little about the relationship between him and his sect, which was why he didn't kill anyone in the Heavenly Talisman realm other than Empyreans, his opponents were different. They viewed him as a traitor and wanted to unify the immortal realms. If there was a chance to act, they would definitely kill him and unify the immortal realms. At that time, the people around him would definitely be in deep trouble. However, the two Empyreans beside him weren't ordinary characters as well. One of them grabbed out through the air, causing Qin Wendian to feel an absolute gravitational force pressing down on him. His body froze and he couldn't move at all. The other Empyrean wielded a long spear and was bathed in lightning. Lightning from the 9 heavenly layers enveloped him as the sky rumbled. The clear sky instantly transformed into a world of lightning. The long spear in his hand directly pierced towards Qin Wendian, transforming into a violet light that was compressed to the extreme. If this spear pierced into Qin Wendian's body, the explosive force would definitely be able to shatter Qin Wendian's body into dust. Bang! Qin Wendian stabbed out with his spear. The origin source shield was deflected and was devoured by the long spear. Qin Wendian directly leapt through space and appeared before the Empyrean. The coordination between the two of them was extremely exquisite, so fast that no one could react. Boom! A powerful gravitational force bore down on Qin Wendian, making it extremely difficult for him to take a single step forward. Spatial light flashed as his body directly vanished. And at the same time, Hua Taishu's eye of samsara radiated an even more terrifying light, causing the expression of the Empyrean who used the origin source of gravity to contort. Qin Wendian wanted to kill him. All of them were Empyreans, none of them were weak. The coordination between the two of them was also extremely exquisite, there was no need for them to put in any effort. Traitor, you are truly impudent. The 3 Empyreans stared at Qin Wendian as their voices were extremely cold. Emperor Qianbian also arrived. When he saw Qin Wendian and Hua Taishu rushing over, his eyes gleamed with a strange light. In the end, they still broke off their alliance. In truth, this was something he didn't want to see. But back then, the Heavenly Talisman realm used Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya to threaten Qin Wendian. He already knew that Qin Wendian would definitely act against the Heavenly Talisman realm. Given Qin Wendian's personality, he would definitely not tolerate this. Even if the other party was from the Heavenly Talisman realm, they had already touched Qin Wendian's bottom line. Why must you force me? Killing intent flashed in Qin Wendian's eyes. Since he wanted to act, he had no choice but to kill. If not, the threat of a character above the immortal Emperor realm was too great. He might be able to handle it, but what about the Evergreen Kingdom? What about the Namhuang clan? What if the Namhuang clan decided to take revenge on Qing'er and Qingcheng? Kill the person in the middle first. Hua Taishu transmitted his voice to Qin Wendian. His eyes of samsara locked onto the person in the middle, it was none other than the expert who released the runic barrier. Boundless light radiated from that person, yet he discovered that Hua Taishu's eyes had already transformed into a world of samsara. How could Qin Wendian allow him to leave so easily? Swishing sounds rang out as countless vines appeared. He stepped into the spatial gate and after that, the vines directly wrapped around the body of the old man. Terrifying bolts of lightning and destruction erupted forth from the old man's body, shattering the vines completely. The 3 Empyreans from the immortal Qianbian gate exuded terrifying auras. Qin Wendian actually dared to attack the Heavenly Talisman realm. What they didn't expect was that the person who ended the glory days of the immortal Qianbian gate was once a disciple of the Heavenly Talisman realm. He was a core member of the immortal Qianbian gate and was known as Qin Wendian. After Qin Wendian killed an Empyrean, he faced off against the Empyrean who was proficient in lightning-type source energy. That Empyrean wielded a demon sword that resembled a great rock, spreading its wings and soaring up into the sky. When Qin Wendian infused his source energy into it, the demon sword soared through the sky as the shadow of a great rock manifested a sword intent, slamming into the boundless lightning bolts. His body fell downwards. At this instant, the gazes of everyone from the immortal Qianbian gate were all focused on him as their hearts pounded unceasingly. The demon sword hummed as a terrifying great rock manifested, radiating boundless sword intent as it shot towards that Empyrean. Qin Wendian advanced step by step, and with every step he took, the aura he exuded grew stronger. Numerous silhouettes soared up into the air. The experts from the immortal Qianbian Gate felt their hearts pounding when they saw this scene. Qin Wendian actually killed his way here, and he wasn't alone. The other person was none other than Hua Taishu, a supreme genius with the title of the Samsara Immortal Emperor. An Empyrean died. Chapter 1699. Qin Wendian swept his gaze over the crowd. After that, he stepped out and directly appeared in an ancient cave in the immortal Qianbian Gate. His sword intent flowed, shattering the cave as a prison appeared. Jun Mengchen, Bai Wuya and Qin Wendian were imprisoned there. Sword light flashed as a sharp sound rang out. The prison was broken apart as Qin Wendian landed on the ground. Senior brother Qin. Jun Mengchen's eyes gleamed. They already knew that Qin Wendian and Hua Taishu had come to save them. When they saw the two of them joining forces to kill 3 Empyreans, Jun Mengchen and the other 2 were extremely shocked. It was simply hard to imagine that their senior brother Qin was already so powerful. Not to mention, Hua Taishu was actually so powerful as well. Before this, they still felt that they were extremely powerful, but when compared to senior brother Qin and Hua Taishu, they felt that they were simply too weak. Bai Wuya smiled as he stared at Qin Wendian. Hundreds of years have passed, the seas have turned into mulberry fields. Bai Wuya had cultivated for so many years and had experienced many storms. But when he saw Qin Wendian, he still saw a miracle, causing his heart to be unable to calm down. He had watched Qin Wendian grow up. Back then, it was him who saw the Dongxing Heaven Emperor coming to his particle world to recruit a disciple. Back then, he saw Qin Wendian and recommended Qin Wendian to join the Heavenly Talisman realm. At that time, Qin Wendian was so weak, a mere celestial phenomenon ascendant, a junior with talent and potential. Bai Wuya had always taken care of Qin Wendian. Who would have thought that the current Qin Wendian was someone he could only look up to? Qin Wendian had actually joined forces with Hua Taishu to kill 3 Empyreans. This was simply unimaginable. These 2 were the disciples that the Dongxing Heaven Emperor had recruited back then in his particle world. If Eastern Sage could see the battle today, it was unknown how emotional he would be. He had missed out on 2 such characters, yet he actually accepted a descendant of an immortal king. Just by looking at his status, his judgment could be considered extremely rare since ancient times. What sort of characters were ancient emperors? It would be extremely rare for one to appear even after tens of thousands of years. Eastern Sage actually met 2 of them at the same time and even had the chance to accept them as his disciples. But with a single sentence from him, he missed out on this opportunity. Mengchen, senior brother, Qin Wendian smiled when he saw the 2 of them. I've made you guys wait for so long, it's been tough on you. What are you talking about? Jun Mengchen's senior apprentice brother walked up and said, back then, when I walked this path, I thought that I would never have a chance to come out. Who would have thought that this world would belong to you guys? Bai Wuya, your junior apprentice brother is even stronger than me. Jun Mengchen, you have to work hard. Jun Mengchen scratched his head and said with a smile, of course I can't compare to senior brother, but I'm not weak either. Really? What about him? Bai Wuya stared at Hua Taishu as he spoke. Jun Mengchen's expression turned black. How would I have known that I would encounter 2 such monsters? Jun Mengchen felt extremely depressed. His talent was outstanding and he had never suffered such a setback before. Upon seeing the expression on Jun Mengchen's face, everyone laughed, feeling extremely relaxed. Right now, after saving Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya, the matter with the Heavenly Talisman realm was concluded. As for the immortal Qianbian Gate, Qin Wendian didn't plan to touch it. After all, it was once his home and the Emperor Lord had shown him kindness. He couldn't be heartless. Turning his gaze over, Qin Wendian stared at the immortal Qianbian Gate. Right now, the immortal Qianbian Gate had changed greatly compared to the past. The Emperor Lord walked over and stood before Qin Wendian as he spoke. Wendian, I've let down Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya. Qin Wendian stared at the Emperor Lord Qianbian only to hear Bai Wuya speaking. Emperor Lord, this matter has nothing to do with you. You basically don't have the authority to choose. If not, there would be one more person in this prison. Other than that, there's no meaning to it. Bai Wuya was someone who could clearly differentiate between gratitude and grudges. There were experts from the heavenly talisman realm that descended from the upper worlds, existences above the immortal emperor realm. Although the Emperor Lord Qianbian was the leader of the immortal sect in name, he basically had no authority to speak. Everything was decided by the people from the heavenly talisman realm. Back then, the heavenly talisman realm came into contact with the Emperor Lord Qianbian and supported him to establish the immortal Qianbian Gate, defeating the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. In truth, the heavenly talisman realm was already preparing to unify Azure Mystic. That's right. Emperor Lord, this matter has nothing to do with the immortal Qianbian Gate. Me and my 2 senior brothers made the decision and we will bear the consequences ourselves. How can we implicate others? Senior brother Qin, let's end this matter here. Jun Mengchen persuaded to Qin Wendian. He was worried that Qin Wendian would vent his anger on the immortal Qianbian Gate because of him. Amicham, I can understand. Qin Wendian nodded. He stared at the Emperor Lord Qianbian and asked, Emperor Lord, do you have any plans for the future? Me? The Emperor Lord Qianbian stared at the immortal sect he established with his own hands. His emotions were somewhat complicated. Although many Empyreans were killed by Qin Wendian, there were still many who followed the Empyreans of the heavenly talisman realm. Who wouldn't want fame and fortune? Many of them wanted to unify Azure Mystic and conquer the world. Among them, many were core characters of the heavenly talisman realm and were stronger than him. Even if he killed these Empyreans, he still wouldn't be able to control the immortal Qianbian Gate. Right now, the immortal Qianbian Gate was already in the hands of the heavenly talisman realm. I'm preparing to roam the world and cultivate well. I will go to the city of ancient emperors and see if I can raise my cultivation base a little. The Emperor Lord Qianbian smiled. He was prepared to give up everything here. Back then, he returned because of the conflict between him and the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. He wanted to prove himself. But now, everything was over. He wanted to truly pursue the martial path. Qin Wendian nodded. He then glanced at the Taishan Immortal King, Tuoba Saint Sky, and the others before his gaze landed on Ziqingxian. He smiled and nodded to her as he transmitted his voice, Qingxian, if you are willing, you can come to the Evergreen Kingdom to cultivate. Everyone had their own ambitions. Qin Wendian wouldn't decide the path everyone would take in the future. After this matter concluded, he would naturally bring Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya away. As for the others, they could all walk their own paths. They were all once friends, he naturally wouldn't vent his anger on his old friends in the immortal Qianbian Gate just because of the will of the heavenly talisman realm. Emperor Lord, this is a messaging crystal. If you have any needs in the future, you can contact me directly. Qin Wendian exchanged immortal senses with the Emperor Lord Qianbian, leaving behind a messaging crystal for him. No matter what choice the Emperor Lord Qianbian made, he couldn't deny the kindness he had shown him in the past. If the Emperor Lord Qianbian encountered any difficulties, he would definitely help him. Naturally, this was also a warning to the people of the heavenly talisman realm not to act against the Emperor Lord Qianbian. He believed that with his attitude, no one would dare to do so. I'm filled with anticipation for you to become the overlord of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. The 1,000 Transformations Emperor Lord laughed as he stared at Qin Wendian. The young man in the past soared up into the heavens with a single step, eventually walking towards the peak of the world, becoming an ancient emperor-level character, leaving his name in history. I will. Qin Wendian smiled. Let's go. After speaking, he brought Jun Mengchen, Bai Wuya and the others away, directly going through the spatial passageway to the heavenly talisman realm. It would be faster this way. Not long after, they returned to the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Staring at the resplendent palace that was rebuilt, Jun Mengchen felt many emotions in his heart, as though it was a lifetime ago. Qin Wentian, Jun Mengchen, I'm leaving first. Hua Taishu stared at Qin Wentian and the others as he spoke. Qin Wentian started, you are leaving just like that? The matters in Azure Mystic have been concluded. I will head to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. I believe that in the future, we will still have the chance to meet again. Hua Taishu stared at Qin Wentian. You are always like this. Qin Wentian smiled. Alright, go ahead then. Let's meet again in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. I will wait for you at the peak of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. A rare smile appeared on Hua Taishu's face. After that, he turned and departed, exuding an incomparable carefreeness. That calm tone of his was filled with immense confidence. If it was someone else who said this, maybe Qin Wentian would feel that the other party was arrogant. But when these words came from Hua Taishu, he actually felt that this was how it should be. The peak of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms? Qin Wentian stared at Hua Taishu's departing figure as he smiled. I'm filled with anticipation. This fellow is getting more and more mysterious. Jun Mengchen mumbled. He naturally felt gratitude towards Hua Taishu in his heart. That fellow didn't like to express himself, but he was very principled when doing things. No one knew what he was thinking in his heart, no one knew what he would do. But because of their friendship, he didn't hesitate to take the initiative to invite Qin Wentian to rescue Qin Wentian. After saving Qin Wentian, he directly left, not exchanging more than a few words. Yeah. Qin Wentian nodded. Senior brother, how is the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms now? I truly want to go there and take a look. Jun Mengchen excitedly spoke. Very strong. Right now, I'm in the lifelong realm of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. The lifelong realm lord has a total of 9 world palace lords under him, and I'm the world palace lord of one of them. Just the strength of my world palace alone isn't any weaker compared to the local hegemonic powers of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. You can very well imagine how strong a world is. Right now, the seal on Azure Mystic has loosened, but even so, only world palace lords can descend to the lower realms. World overlords aren't allowed to do so, or I wonder what the consequences would be. Qin Wentian slowly spoke. Jun Mengchen had an intense look of yearning on his face. Seems like there's no meaning in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms anymore. I'm preparing to follow senior brother to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Why are you still staying here to unify Azure Mystic? There's no meaning to it. Jun Mengchen was still as carefree in front of Qin Wentian, saying whatever he wanted to say. This Azure Mystic is our home after all. There are too many things we are worried about. I hope that before I leave, I can unify Azure Mystic and deter the people of the upper world, returning Azure Mystic to an era of peace. Qin Wentian slowly spoke. As for what the future of Azure Mystic would be like after I leave, even if I want to, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to control it. Just like what he said in the past, he wanted to unify Azure Mystic. However, it wasn't for fame and fortune. At his level, fame and fortune were already meaningless to him. The incident at the Immortal Qianbian Gate soon circulated around the world. After all, this matter involved ancient emperor-level characters, and the #1 expert of Azure Mystic, the Heaven Empyrean, participated in it. How could this not cause a commotion? 4 ancient emperor-level characters were killed in a single day. The Heaven Empyrean and the Samsara Immortal Emperor slaughtered their way into the Heavenly Talisman Realm and the Immortal Qianbian Gate, killing Empyreans and saving Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya. For a period of time, the entire world trembled. Other than the current #1 expert of Azure Mystic, the name of Hua Taishu also circulated around the world. The Samsara Immortal Emperor shocked the world with a single feat. Everyone in the world knew of him, and he became a character equal to the Heaven Empyrean. Chapter 1700. The Empyreans of the Heavenly Talisman Realm were all killed. The Immortal Qianbian Gate that was under their control instantly became a peak power. Without Empyreans, it was impossible for them to have a chance to rule the Azure Mystic Immortal. Those peak powers that chose to submit to the immortal Qianbian Gate all started to regret their decision. The 4 Empyreans were directly killed, the immortal Qianbian Gate was knocked down from its divine pedestal. The tripartite balance of power didn't last long before it was destroyed. Right now, there were 2 supreme powers vying for supremacy in Azure Mystic, but the people of the immortal realms were already discussing when the Heaven Empyrean Qin Wendian would unify Azure Mystic. The vast majority of people felt that it wouldn't be long before the Heaven Empyrean Qin Wendian would unify Azure Mystic. He would destroy the Jiang clan and become the sole hegemon under the heavens. Several days later, news circulated out that the immortal Qianbian Gate had disintegrated. A power that was strong enough to rule the Azure Mystic Immortal was knocked down from its divine pedestal by Qin Wendian, becoming history. They also understood that in a situation where they didn't have Empyreans, let alone Qin Wendian, even if Qin Wendian didn't participate, they wouldn't be able to stand against the subordinates of Qin Wendian. After the immortal Qianbian Gate disintegrated, all the experts dispersed. As for those powers that submitted to the immortal Qianbian Gate, they came to the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, wanting to submit to Qin Wendian. However, they were all rejected by Qin Wendian. Although he wanted to give Qing Xian a peaceful environment, he was not a good person. When he was fighting with the immortal Qianbian Gate, both parties were on opposite sides. Since they chose to stand on the other side, there was no reason for them to surrender after failing. He would not be cruel enough to massacre these forces, but in the future, these forces were destined to not be able to stand on the top of Qing Xian. This was undeniable. If he were to take over Qing Xian would be controlled by these forces that followed him. After the immortal Qianbian Gate, next would be the Jiang clan. That day in the Evergreen Kingdom, Qin Wendian had said that he wanted to kill Jiang Zihua, but the Jiang clan had rejected him. Now that the transcendence of the immortal Qianbian Gate had been annihilated and the immortal sect had disintegrated, would Qin Wendian spare the Jiang clan? The experts of the immortal realms were all waiting for the battle that would decide the future master of Azure Mystic to erupt. Today, Qin Wendian sent a messenger to the Jiang clan, telling them to hand over Jiang Zihua. At the same time, the Jiang clan was not to interfere in the matters of Azure Mystic. The Jiang clan naturally rejected, reprimanding Qin Wendian for being too arrogant. Hence, the relationship between both parties was extremely tense and a battle could erupt at any moment. If the Heaven Empyrean Qin Wendian and the Samsara Emperor Hua Taishu killed their way into the Jiang clan, would the 3 ancient emperors of the Jiang clan be able to withstand them? Today, the 3 Empyreans of the Jiang clan challenged the Heaven Empyrean Qin Wendian to a battle. The letter of challenge was sent to the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Qin Wendian accepted it and set off alone, heading to the location of the battle. At the border of the eastern and southern regions, there was a sea region with many islands in it. At this moment, on one of the islands, 2 experts stood there. Their eyes were closed as faint light revolved around them. Finally, one of them opened his eyes and spoke, "He's here. He's alone, I don't see Hua Taishu. Could he be hiding in the shadows?" The other person spoke. After that, he took out a messaging crystal and sent out a strand of immortal sense. "If that's the case, how can he hide from us?" That person spoke confidently. The 2 of them nodded and an instant later, Qin Wendian soared through the air and appeared in the airspace above them. "Why are there only 2 of you here?" Qin Wendian stood in the air, staring at the 2 experts from the Jiang clan. The person on the left spoke, "Qin Wendian, your actions in Azure Mystic are too brazen. Even if you are the number 1 expert of Azure Mystic, you won't be able to escape your fate of dying prematurely. The Heavenly Talisman realm has already disintegrated. Where do you guys get your confidence from?" Qin Wendian asked. The Heavenly Talisman Realm Lord is merely the overlord of a world. How can he be compared to the supreme ancient immortal realms that has an inheritance of countless years? This is only because you still have a chance to show off your might in the lower world. If this is in the supreme ancient immortal realms, my Jiang clan can crush you to death as easily as crushing an ant. Qin Wendian, let me give you one last piece of advice. Don't be an ant trying to shake a tree. There are some people you can't afford to antagonize. The expert from the Jiang clan spoke. I don't know about the matters in the supreme ancient immortal realms, but in this azure mystic, I can still afford to antagonize your Jiang clan. Qin Wendian spoke. A terrifying aura permeated the air. He couldn't be bothered to waste time talking nonsense. Since the Jiang clan challenged him, he could only do so. The eyes of the two Empyreans from the Jiang clan turned golden, gleaming with sharpness. Their bodies were bathed in resplendent golden Buddhic light, as well as a layer of silver armor. Gold and silver intertwined together, exuding a heroic aura. Immobilize. One of them coldly snorted. This was a secret art of the Buddhist path, the immobilize art. Qin Wendian only felt terrifying streams of Buddhic origin energy transforming into ancient runes that directly imprinted themselves on his body, causing his body to freeze momentarily. He was actually immobilized. The other Empyrean stepped out, directly traversing through space, and appeared before Qin Wendian. His arm directly slashed out towards Qin Wendian. His arm seemed to transform into an invincible divine weapon, capable of slicing through space. When it pierced into Qin Wendian, it directly penetrated through Qin Wendian's body, slowly penetrating into Qin Wendian's body. The confidence of the two of them was also based on their combat prowess. Under their joint attack, ordinary Empyreans would surely be caught off guard and killed in a single strike. However, how could Qin Wendian be an ordinary Empyrean? Just as his opponent's arm slashed into Qin Wendian's body, another body appeared, separating from his original body. Two clones of Qin Wendian actually appeared there, akin to a cicada shedding its carapace. In an instant, one of the clones was destroyed. As for Qin Wendian, his countenance was filled with shock. The Empyrean of the Jiang clan was truly extraordinary. Fortunately, he had also cultivated many techniques. In the air, a terrifying spatial storm abruptly manifested as countless spatial gates appeared. The sky above the sea region was incomparably resplendent. That Empyrean of the Jiang clan formed a mudra with both hands. The fixed body technique of Buddhism was akin to the power of the Great Tao. Accompanied by the descent of the Buddha's voice, the fixed body technique shot out from the air, landing on the spatial gates one after another, intending to fix them in place. The other Empyrean transformed into a golden ancient Buddha, transforming into a Dharma body. Boundless Buddha's light shot out and his body moved like lightning, using both his hands and feet. Every attack he made was akin to a thunderbolt, causing the spatial gates to collapse one after another. His body directly pursued the silhouette of Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian's body kept on evading. The mysterious Jiang clan was proficient in the power of Buddhism. Many an azure mystic guessed that they were a branch of Buddhism. Back then, Jiang Zihua had even defeated Bujie's teacher. Although their Buddhist techniques were slightly unorthodox, there was no doubt that their combat prowess was extremely powerful. Qin Wendian, you won't be able to escape from my palms. The Empyrean who used the fixed body technique spoke. Similarly, a powerful Dharma body appeared on his body. In that instant, the source energy of heaven and earth seemed to transform into numerous ancient Buddhas, descending from the sky. In fact, within the sea region, there were also incomparably huge Dharma bodies of Buddhism appearing. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out, the sea region trembled, the mountains and rivers roared, the vast space seemed to be sealed within this Buddhist technique. Qin Wendian dodged and retreated, only to see a thunderous rumbling sound. Incomparably huge Dharma bodies appeared in the void and the sea region, directly severing the space and spitting out the fixed body talismans, wanting to lock Qin Wendian in the void. Such might was too terrifying, enough to shake the heavens. There were people in the various islands in the sea region who were cultivating in seclusion, but they were awakened by the battle. When they saw the innumerable Dharma bodies of Buddhism appearing in the sky and the sea region, all of them felt that it was inconceivable and directly stood there. Such continuous attacks caused even Qin Wendian to feel troubled. When he dodged again, there was actually an extremely powerful palm that blasted towards him. Judging by the direction of the wind, it was as though the palm could predict where he would appear in advance. Clearly, defense was not the top priority. At this moment, Qin Wendian's body turned pitch black. Devil clouds seethed unceasingly as a terrifying devil king appeared, resembling a supreme devil lord. When the fixed body talisman attacked again, Qin Wentian's black eyes gleamed with a fearsome devil light. The boundless devil might caused the heavens and earth to tremble, directly corroding the Buddhic light. Return! With a cold shout, an incomparably gigantic devil lord appeared in the air, standing proudly in the air. The devil lord's head was above the sky, and his feet were on the sea region. As Qin Wentian coldly shouted, the fixed body talisman transformed into a devil talisman, directly turning around and shooting towards the two experts from the Jiang clan. The myriad devil sovereign's inheritance allowed Qin Wentian to ignore the devil attacks of experts on the same level as him after he broke through to the immortal king realm. He could even reverse the attacks of those on the same level as him. Now, he has already broken through to the Empyrean realm and comprehended the source origins of devil laws. Only then could he truly unleash the power of this inheritance. The myriad devil sovereign's dominion art. Devil dominion is boundless, heaven and earth are lawless, all laws are used by me. The Buddhic Dharma bodies summoned by the two experts from the Jiang clan were also corroded by the devil might. The pitch-black light covered the golden Buddhic light as two completely different types of energy struggled against each other. But in the end, the Buddhic Dharma bodies transformed into devil king bodies. From this, one could see how tyrannical the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign was. If one cultivated this art to the extreme, it was unknown how terrifying it would be. It was unknown if one could reach the state where if one became a devil, there would be no Buddhas under the heavens. Just when Qin Wentian was fighting against the two experts from the Jiang clan, in the royal palace of the evergreen immortal empire, two terrifying auras suddenly gushed forth. In the air, two silhouettes could be seen. One of them was none other than the other Empyrean from the Jiang clan. As for the other Empyrean, no one had seen him before, but his aura was extremely terrifying. He was none other than an Empyrean from the Ying clan from the upper world who came here for revenge. His eyes flashed with a frenzied killing intent. Qin Wentian destroyed the Ying clan. Today, he wanted Qin Wentian to pay the debt of blood with blood, annihilating the Evergreen Kingdom. Chapter 1701. Two supreme auras bore down on the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, causing countless people to be shocked. They inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The expressions of Chongqing the Great and the others drastically changed. After that, they took out their messaging crystals and sent their immortal sense in, sending a message to Qin Wentian. The two supreme experts in the air all had malevolent smiles on their faces when they saw this. Sending a message. Was there enough time? Brother Ying, Qin Wentian has a grudge against you for having his entire clan annihilated. I won't fight with you any longer. Please, let's go. An expert from the Jiang clan spoke. The Ying clan's Empyrean nodded. He was ordered to come to Azure Mystic, but before he even arrived, his entire clan was annihilated. This was simply a great humiliation. After that, he heard that Qin Wentian had slain Empyreans and was the #1 expert under the heavens. Hence, he decided to kill his way here. Back then, he was among the Empyreans of the Evergreen Kingdom, but he didn't reveal his identity. It wasn't until this time when the Jiang clan issued a challenge to Qin Wentian did he come here with another Empyrean from the Jiang clan. Since this is the case, I won't be polite then. The voice of the Ying clan's Empyrean flickered with cold killing intent. His gaze was filled with disdain as he stared at the people below. Please, in the royal palace, beauties are as common as the clouds. Some of them are exceedingly beautiful. Brother Ying, you have to be more lenient when you act. The Empyrean from the Jiang clan laughed loudly. The immortal sense of the Ying clan's Empyrean enveloped the entire royal palace and he naturally saw many beauties. When he heard the words of the Jiang clan's Empyrean, his heart trembled slightly. Such a method of revenge wasn't too bad after all. Numerous thunderous roars rang out as demonic chi engulfed the area. Numerous terrifying demonic dragons appeared, circling the skies. Each of these dragons was at least 10 million meters long, and they hovered in the air, blotting out the sun. In just an instant, the sky turned dark. The area around the Evergreen Kingdom Palace seemed to have turned into an apocalyptic scene. The malevolent faces of the demonic dragons all flickered with a cold killing intent. The sky trembled as the demonic dragons frenziedly revolved in the air. As long as the Empyrean from the Yin clan gave the command, they would be able to kill their way down. The experts of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace all turned pale. Before this pressure, they only felt that they were extremely tiny and insignificant, as though they were a lone sail in the face of an apocalyptic storm. I've been fooled. GD stood in the crowd. Her expression was extremely unsightly. Qin Wendian wasn't here. Who would be able to deal with an ancient emperor? Although they had an army of immortal emperors guarding this place, they would discover that immortal emperors and ancient emperors weren't on the same level. Their advantage in numbers couldn't be made up for. Master, there's no way he doesn't have a backup plan. Qing's white hair fluttered in the wind as she calmly looked at the scene in the void. She trusted Qin Wendian so much. She naturally believed in him. After Qin Wendian returned, he spent all his time with them, bringing them along wherever he went, even if it was to the myriad Devil Islands. Such feelings, others might not be able to understand, but both she and Mo Qingqing understood. Since Qin Wendian told them to stay in the royal palace, it was impossible for him to not be on guard against any sneak attacks. Such intense confidence, there was no other reason, it was because of their feelings. And just as the sound of Qing's voice faded, with the Emperor Palace of the Evergreen Immortal Empire as the center, the earth suddenly lit up as resplendent runic light flashed. Tens of thousands of mysterious runes frenziedly circulated around every corner of the Evergreen Immortal Empire as a heart-palpitating aura gushed forth. At the center of the Imperial Palace, an illusory and ancient diagram appeared. Michem. The Empyrean from the Yin clan and the Empyrean from the Jiang clan had looks of bewilderment on their faces. After that, they couldn't help but exclaim in shock, formation. The rebuilt Evergreen Kingdom Palace actually had a supreme grand formation inscribed within. Origin source energy gushed forth from it, extremely powerful. Their immortal senses searched for the origin source of the formation. After that, their gazes landed on an ordinary-looking figure. This figure was clad in black robes and had a mask on. It was unknown when he appeared here, but his aura seemed to have been concealed. But at this moment, his aura was gradually being released. The grand formation seemed to be under his control. Empyrean realm. The countenances of the two of them changed. Also, this wasn't the Samsara Emperor Hua Taishu from the rumors. It was another Empyrean instead. Other than Qin Wendian and Hua Taishu, there was another Empyrean hidden in the Evergreen Kingdom. This caused them to feel a sense of unease. The expert from the Yin clan pointed his finger downwards. Instantly, the sky rumbled as dragon roars filled the air. The roar of the demonic dragon caused the earth to shatter as it shot downwards. Below, the black-robed figure slowly soared up into the air as the terrifying grand formation manifested. Numerous ancient sealing gates appeared, as though they came from the primordial era. When the demonic dragon slammed into the sealing gates, it was directly sucked into them. That incomparably gigantic body of the demonic dragon actually shrank unceasingly before vanishing completely. The entire world had been sealed. If one were to look down from the sky, they would be able to see that the entire sky was actually a gigantic door. Boundless sealing light shot out from within, heading straight for the experts of the Yin clan and the Jiang clan. I've been waiting for you for a long time. A voice rang out from the mouth of the black-robed expert. Since he knew that there would be Empyreans from the Yin clan coming to Azure Mystic, how could he not be on guard? Just like what Qinger had thought, there was nothing that could compare to how much he cared for Qinger and Mo Qingcheng. Now that he has returned to Azure Mystic, he wouldn't allow them to be in danger again. Even if he had no other choice, he would still stand in front of them. The immortal senses of the experts from the Yin clan and Jiang clan swept out in all directions. They also felt that something was wrong. This entire space was actually a sealed space. Numerous sealing gates gushed towards them, gleaming with boundless sealing light. The two of them radiated a terrifying aura, unleashing a supremely powerful force that broke through the sealing gate. However, by borrowing the power of the formation, the sealing gate was limitless and the sealing light was limitless as well. The two of them only felt the amount of heavenly energy they could use growing weaker and weaker as their countenances turned extremely unsightly to behold. The Empyrean from the Jiang clan grabbed out with his hands towards the imperial palace of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, wanting to capture the hostage. However, his attack landed on the sealing gates and he was trapped within. There was no way for him to break through. This GD, Chongqing the Great and the others didn't expect Qin Wendian to have a backup plan. Back then when Qin Wendian was searching for skilled craftsmen to rebuild the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, they actually didn't know that there was a formation that was constructed here. Not only that, this formation was extremely powerful. From the looks of it, the two Empyreans were already trapped within, unable to extricate themselves. Most probably, the situation would only get more and more disadvantageous for them as time passed. What's the situation? Qin Wendian is very strong. We are in danger. At this moment, a voice rang out in the mind of the Empyrean from the Jiang clan. This voice belonged to the two people who challenged Qin Wendian. His countenance instantly turned pale. Were the two sides of the battlefield in such a dangerous situation? He dodged unceasingly, taking out his messaging crystal and sending a strand of immortal sense into it. After that, he retracted his state of mind and continued the battle. This was also because the black-robed figure below didn't unleash any oppressive attacks. Only then could he find the time to reply. At this moment, in another battlefield, the entire sea region was in a frenzy. The seawater flowed in reverse as devil might filled the sky, unexcelled in the world. Numerous ancient devil kings appeared, slaughtering everything in their path. Qin Wendian transformed into a devil sovereign. He actually used his devil body to unleash Buddhist arts and techniques, as well as many unfathomable innate techniques. With a thunderous boom, Qin Wendian vanished from his original location. His gigantic body directly appeared in the airspace above an Empyrean from the Jiang clan. With a cracking sound, the Buddha body of the Jiang clan's Empyrean shattered as numerous devil arms grabbed downwards. The Empyrean's hands frenziedly formed seals as his source energy transformed into a myriad of immobilizing talismans. However, the devil might corroded everything as the runic inscriptions were reversed and flew towards the Empyrean. At this instant, the body of the Empyrean from the Jiang clan was completely immobilized. The devil arms of Qin Wendian descended, directly binding him. What's the result of your voice transmission? Qin Wendian, who resembled a supreme devil lord, stared at him with incomparably black eyes as he asked. The expression of that Empyrean from the Jiang clan turned extremely ugly to behold. He struggled madly as he asked, why are there other Empyreans? In addition, he was able to hide from the detection of his immortal senses. Do you know what sealing energy is? Qin Wendian spoke. Di Tian had sealed all his auras, naturally, no one would be able to sense it. He had also sealed his own aura, the formation was the same as well. I will hand Jiang Zihua over to you. The Empyrean from the Jiang clan spoke. Before this, if you wanted to compromise, I would have believed your sincerity. But since the battle has already started, there's no longer a need to set conditions. You can go. Qin Wendian spoke, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying light. A devil saber slashed out, the other Empyrean couldn't bear to watch. His body directly vanished from the air, as though he was using a greater teleportation technique, wanting to leave. He knew that this battle was extremely miserable. Back then when Qin Wendian killed the Empyrean, he was actually still holding back. Boom! The devilish figure vanished from his location, directly chasing after the Empyrean. A devilish palm imprint blotted out the sky, blocking out the sun. There was simply no way to evade, it directly slammed down towards the Empyrean. With a thunderous boom, that Empyrean was enveloped by the devilish palm imprint and was blasted into the sea region. However, the palm imprint followed after him, causing the seawater in the sea region to churn frenziedly as the waves roared. That Empyrean from the Jiang clan had no way to evade. The spectators from afar felt their legs trembling as they stared fixedly at the battlefield. Was this really Wuxiu's battle? An ancient emperor could actually be so powerful to such an extent? Most probably, the entire sea region was about to vanish. After Qin Wendian killed his Empyrean, his eyes gleamed with a terrifying devilish light. It was about time for him to reel in the net. His silhouette flashed, radiating a towering devil might as he soared into the air. Everywhere he passed by, countless experts trembled, wanting to prostrate themselves on the ground and worship him. Was this the might of the Heaven Empyrean Devil Lord? Who in the world could contend against him? He is heading towards the southern regions of the immortal realms, not to the eastern regions. Someone's heart trembled. He is heading to the Jiang clan. At this instant, those who saw Qin Wendian leaving understood that the Jiang clan was finished.